What's up, y'all? We in the building. Shout out to everybody out there, man. We most definitely in the building, guys. As I wait for everybody to fall in, what's up with it? Salute. What's up, Miss Pooh Bear? Thank you for the gift. We most definitely in the building. What's up, guys? How y'all doing today? Most definitely have a goal started, guys. You know what I'm saying? Make sure you contribute to the goal, man. We in here. Hey, man, it's a lot going on in politics today, man. We got some things with Hexef and Trump. They do to make an announcement. Marjorie Taylor Greene then came out and spoke on the release of the Epstein files. You know what I'm saying? Basically feeling a way about them being heavily redacted, guys. Oh, yeah, they most definitely redacted the Epstein files. We got some things going on with Turning Point USA with J.D. Vance, you know what I'm saying, basically giving a speech. It's been all kind of conspiracy theories involving them. Shout out to Miss Pooh Bear, thank you very much. Shout out to the gifts, thank y'all very much. Most definitely appreciate it. What's up, y'all? We back in business, you know what I'm saying? Back on the grind, man, as we take time to see what it is that J.D. Vance had to say at Turning Point USA. Y'all know that's the business of Charlie Kirk, Erica Kirk. We've been hearing her name. She most definitely did an interview with Nicki Minaj, man. You know what I'm saying? Candace Owens been speaking on Piers Morgan. Man, it's a lot to go over, man. You know what I'm saying? The weekend over, it's time to go to work. Hey, Positive Vibes, how you doing, man? Y'all make sure y'all double tapping that screen. That's how you hit the like button, or you can click the three dots, hit that thumbs up, guys. Pisces, thank you for all the gifts, you know what I'm saying? I most definitely appreciate it. Yeah, man, we in here. Y'all ready to get to it? Let's get to it. This is J.D. Vance speaking at Turning Point USA, guys. Let's see what J.D. had to say over here in his speech, guys. Then we're going to move on to the Epstein files, because they was released, but they was heavily redacted. Let's go.
Wow. How's it going, Phoenix? It's so good to be here with you all on this amazing day to close out an amazing AmFest 2025. What an amazing crowd all of you are, and I have to admit, today solved one of the great insecurities that I had. Because as I've watched Nicki Minaj come out and declare her support for the truth, for courage.
Nicki Minaj, we gonna get to her in a minute, man. Y'all hear him talking about a Nicki Minaj, not in politics. Let's go.
Watch Nicki Minaj come out and declare, all of you are, and I have to admit, today solved one of the great insecurities that I had. Because as I've watched Nicki Minaj come out and declare her support for the truth, for courage, and for wisdom, I've had this little nagging voice in the back of my head wondering whether she thinks I look like the J.D. Vance meme. And it turns out, and I confirmed when she walked down the steps, Nicki Minaj actually knows what I really look like, and that is the best tribute that I could possibly imagine. I have to start off with a note of gratitude. Erica, I cannot thank you enough for your strength, your grace, and your kind words of support for this administration and for me personally. You lead an incredible movement at Turning Point. I will fight alongside you and President Trump and every patriot in this room to defend the country that we so dearly love. And when I say that I'm going to fight alongside of you, I mean all of you, each and every one. President Trump did not build the greatest coalition in politics by running his supporters through endless, self-defeating purity tests. He says, make America great again because every American is invited. We don't care if you're white or black, rich or poor.
Once again, guys, this is JD Vance, guys, speaking at Turning Point USA, man. Let's make sure we double tap the screen, get the likes up, or click those three dots in the right-hand corner, hit that thumbs up. Make sure you subscribing to the channel if you're new. We on the road to 58K. We need all the subscribers we can get. So double tap that screen. That's how you hit the like button if you're on a mobile device, or click those three dots, hit that thumbs up. Shout out to everybody in the building.
Young or old, rural or urban, controversial or a little bit boring, or somewhere in between. People of every faith come to our banner because they know that the America First movement will make their lives better, and they also know that the Democrats don't care about anything other than maybe transing their kids. So if you love America, if you want all of us to be richer, stronger, safer, and prouder, you have a home on this team. I didn't bring a list of conservatives to denounce or to deplatform, and I don't really care if some people out there, I'm sure we'll have the fake news media, denounce me after this speech. But let me just say, the best way to honor Charlie is that none of us here should be doing something after Charlie's death that he himself refused to do in life. He invited all of us here. Charlie invited all of us here for a reason, because he believed that each of us, all of us, had something worth saying, and he trusted all of you to make your own judgment. And we have far more important work to do than canceling each other. We have got to build, and President Donald Trump is a builder. We're building a better country right now, and you have a rightful place in the success of your nation and the success of this movement. And we build by adding, by growing, not by tearing down. Charlie Kirk was a great builder too. He understood that any family can have its disagreements, its tough conversations. We can learn and improve and treat one another better. We can love each other despite the disagreement. But winning demands teamwork. And I am honored to be on Turning Point's team. I'm honored to be on your team, and I will stay that way.
JD Vance saying he most definitely is a part, of Turning Point USA. What y'all think about that, guys? Continue to double tap that screen. Let's get the likes over 100. If you're on a mobile device, double tap that screen or click those three dots, hit that thumbs up, man. And most definitely subscribe to the channel if you're new.
There's still so much important work to do, my friends. We're barely a year into this administration, not even a year into the administration. But I'm so proud of the accomplishments of the president and the entire administration. In just a year, we ended Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's border crisis.
What's up, Barney?
December marks 7 months straight of zero releases at the southern border. More than 2.5 million illegal immigrants have left the United States, the first time in over 50 years that we have had negative net migration, and it's just the start. When you restore sanity at the border, it shows up everywhere else. Rent prices are dropping 4 months in a row, and more native-born Americans are working than ever before. Kamala Harris opened the border and destroyed the economy. The Trump administration gave you net negative migration and much more job creation. Real wages are finally growing. Inflation is half of what it was under Democrats. Gas prices are their lowest in years. And we have finally made it clear that in the United States, we believe in hard work and merit. Unlike the left, we stand against treating anybody, and I love what Nikki said about this. We don't treat anybody different because of their race or their sex. So we have relegated DEI to the dustbin of history, which is exactly where it belongs. In the United States of America, you don't have to apologize for being white anymore. And if you're an Asian, you don't have to talk around your skin color when you're applying for college, because we judge people based on who they are, not on ethnicity and things they can't control. We don't persecute you for being male, for being straight, for being gay, for being anything. The only thing that we demand is that you be a great American patriot, and if you're that, you're very much on our team. Just consider the contrast. Kamala Harris,
We need 40 more likes, guys. Double tap that screen. Get the lights up. I see people down there saying lies, lies. Y'all don't believe what he's saying? Nicki Minaj most definitely did an interview with Erica Kirk. That's kind of what he's speaking on and some of the things that she had to say. Yeah, we got that coming up next, man. Make sure y'all double tap that screen. We need the likes to 100. 30 more likes, guys. Double tap that screen if you're on a mobile device, or click those three dots, hit that thumbs up, guys. Most definitely subscribe to the channel. We on the road to 58K. We need all the subscribers we can get. So subscribe, guys. 5 more likes to hit 100. 5 more people double tap their screen and click those three dots, hit that thumbs up. Shout out to everybody in the building.
Use the government to censor you. We're using in the Trump administration the government to protect your free speech, whether it's on college campuses or in the digital marketplace of ideas. Today, our military is welcoming patriots instead of firing them for refusing to accept an unlawful vaccine mandate. And to honor Charlie, but also to honor all of you, we're working to end the scourge of left-wing violence in the United States of America. We're going after the far-left crime networks, but we're also going after the monsters that fund them. We don't just want to go after the Antifa member who threw a brick at an ICE agent. We want to know who bought the brick, and we're going to prosecute them too.
We say we want to know who bought the brick. We're gonna prosecute them too. Oh, let's go.
We're making America healthy again with our great HHS Secretary, Bobby Kennedy. We're bringing drug prices down and purging our food supply of the poison that had built up over a generation. But my friends, there is so much more to be done. And the people saying we need to be doing more, we need to be doing it faster, trust me, I hear you. Greatness awaits every single one of you in the America First movement we are building together, but we need your help to get there. Do you want more prosecutions? Great. So do we. Donald Trump and I have a list of better judges and prosecutors to enact swifter justice. So join us in the fight against the stupid Senate rules to stand in their way. Do you want faster deportations? So go to ice.gov/join, because we're building an army of patriots and we need good people who care about the country to help us secure the border and do it even faster. Do you want rents to keep dropping and wages to keep rising as they have over the last few months? Then mobilize with us. Don't hand power back to the people who tanked the economy in the first place. Join the America First movement and you will always have a place on our great team. Next month will be the official one-year anniversary of the Trump administration, and I am damn proud of our record so far. Now the Democrats are...
Somebody said, wow, what a great liar. Somebody else said he lies, he lies. Idiocracy meets Handmaid's Tale. Wow. Do research, peeps. Don't just idolize. Okay, man, listen. I see y'all divided down there.
About 2028. And it looks like they're going to nominate a California liberal who's presided... A California liberal who's presided over rolling blackouts, open borders, and unchecked violent gangs. They're just trying to settle on whether it's going to be Gavin Newsom or Kamala Harris. And in the meantime, what are the Democrats offering you in the meantime? I got to say, ladies and gentlemen, they are not sending their best. Omar Fateh was Ilhan Omar's candidate for mayor of Mogadishu. What? I mean Minneapolis. Little Freudian slip there. The candidate for Senate in Maine for the Democrats calls me a Nazi, which is rich coming from a guy who literally has a Nazi tattoo on his chest. And Jasmine Crockett. Oh, Jasmine Crockett. The record speaks for itself. She wants to be a senator, though her street girl persona is about as real as her nails.
Not street girl persona. What you know about the streets, J.D. Vance?
But ask yourself, what do all of these people have in common? And the unfortunate answer is they are puppets. They don't actually matter. They are cogs in a machine that wants to make you poorer, that wants to make you less powerful, and wants to make you less safe in the country your ancestors built. And while President Trump and I are doing everything we can to break that machine, the left is still there, my friends, and they are still very powerful. Don't delude yourselves. It's the activist groups who want to poison your kids with hormone replacement therapy and toxins in your water supply. It's the corporate boardrooms pushing diversity quotas while whining about the fact that Donald Trump won't let them ship American jobs overseas anymore, and boo-hoo to that. It's the rogue district judges who issued nationwide injunctions every time the president lifts a finger. It's the Soros DAs who cheered on as their cities burn. What unites them? They win when our country loses. They get rich when you get poorer. They hire the illegals that they bring in to take your jobs. They drink fine wine in the countries they ship your jobs to. They censor you because they'd rather destroy the Constitution than risk losing an argument. They bring in
Do y'all believe what he's saying, guys, or is this a bunch of hogwash? Let me know in the chat.
millions of voters because they know they can't win the argument with the people who are already here. And you know what else unites them? We are going to kick their ass next November and every year after that. Part of the American dream is the idea that we're all, every single one of us, on the same team. We're all part of the same American family. If you want to destroy that, do what Democrats have done, not just for the last 5 years, but for the last 30 or 40. Make one race the enemy of another. Make one gender the enemy of the other. Make Americans suspect and despise each other instead of loving their shared country. When I think about some of the most impassioned debates happening in our country, the nature of citizenship, of what it means.
Hey guys, can we take time to double tap that screen? That's how you hit the like button. It helps out the channel. Double tap that screen or click those 3 dots, hit that thumbs up, guys. Both of those are ways to hit the like button. Let's get the likes all the way up. Double tap that screen if you're on a mobile device or click those 3 dots, hit that thumbs up, guys. And most definitely subscribe to the channel if you are new. We on the road to 58K. We need all the subscribers we can get. So subscribe, guys.
To be an American, it all speaks to an obvious truth. Americans are hungry for identity. We're hungry for belonging. We're hungry for a sense of our place in the world. And it's no surprise why. For many years, our fellow Americans have been dealing with a globalized economy that homogenized cultures and hollowed out our towns. Academics and activists pushing race and gender politics down everyone's throat 24/7. Big tech overlords using their internet platforms to censor stories that challenge the dominant far-left narrative in our country. More than any time I can recount, people are talking about American identity and figuring out what it is that unites us. But I want to say something here. The only thing that has truly served as an anchor of the United States of America is that we have been, and by the grace of God, we always will be, a Christian nation. Now, I want to be explicit because, of course, the fake news media will twist everything that I say. I'm not saying... Do you feel about them the same way I do? I'm not saying you have to be a Christian to be an American. I'm saying something simpler and truer. Christianity is America's creed. The shared moral language from the Revolution to the Civil War and beyond. Across that history, our country's major debates have always centered on how we could best as a people please God. That creed, think about it, that creed motivated our understanding of natural law and rights, our sense of duty to one's neighbor, the conviction that the strong must protect the weak, and the belief in individual conscience. Even our famously American idea of religious liberty is a Christian concept. Because we're all creatures of God, we must respect each individual's pathway to that God. But over the last 50 years, there has been a singular focus, a war that has been waged on Christians and Christianity in the United States of America. And let me say of all the wars that Donald Trump has ended, that is the one we're proudest of.
Is JD making a lot of sense to y'all guys, or is this just a bunch of propaganda? Let me know in the chat.
For decades, the left has labored to push Christianity out of national life. They've kicked it out of the schools, out of the workplace, out of the fundamental parts of the public square. Freedom of religion transformed into freedom from religion. And in a public square devoid of God, we got a vacuum. And the ideas that filled that void preyed on the very worst of human nature rather than uplifting it. They told us not that we were children of God, but children of this or that identity group. They replaced God's beautiful design for the family that men and women could rely on and turn to one another with the idea that men could turn into women so long as they brought the right bunch of pills from Big Pharma.
Whoa, guys, big shots at the transgender community.
They had all the religious fervor of a zealous convert without any of the grace or forgiveness of a true Christian. Scripture tells us, by your fruits ye shall know them. And we might ask, what are the fruits of these people and their principles? And the answer is a man named Tyler Robinson who killed my friend.
Thank you, Miss D.
Think about it. He is everything that the far left want from our young men. He rejected the conservatism and the spirituality, the values of a small town family. He moved into a small apartment. He became addicted to porn. He became addicted to hate. And he ended up sleeping with somebody who doesn't know whether they're a man or a woman. That is the nightmare scenario, but that is the scenario that the left has actively advertised they want for American families. And the young men in the audience in particular. That is exactly why we have to fight them. Because the fruits of true Christianity are men like Charlie Kirk. The fruits of true Christianity are good husbands, patient fathers, builders of great things, and slayers of dragons. And yes, men who are willing to die for a principle if that's what God asks them to do. Because so many of us recognize that it is better to die a patriot than live a coward. I'm going to tell you something I haven't talked about publicly before, but in the days after Charlie's death, I struggled a great deal. I'm sure many of you did too. I remember watching every video of the assassination, looking for clues, trying to understand what happened. I try to hide my friend and that terrible bull.
Better slow down, man. You know what I'm saying? Looking for clues in those videos. They on Candace Owens' neck about her conspiracy theories. Like, you probably talking about her right now. Let's go.
Hitting him, but I would try to look around. I stayed up all night for many nights in a row, researching every conspiracy theory, going down every rabbit hole. When my lovely wife Usha told me to come to bed, I told her I owed it to Charlie to try to uncover every stone, and so that's what I tried to do. I remember I was consumed by this fear that Charlie's death wouldn't just deprive a family of their husband or of a good father, but that it would deny our movement of a great unifier of people and a great doer of great deeds. It's the only time I can remember my wife ever telling me that she was really worried about me. She told me it many times. But what saved me was not lying to myself, but accepting the reality of the fight that we're in. Charlie's death was an immense loss, an irreplaceable loss. We got kicked in the teeth, my friends, and there's no sugarcoating it or pretending that it didn't happen. We need to accept that. And what saved me was realizing that the story of the Christian faith, like the story of these United States of America, is one of immense loss followed by even bigger victory. It's a story. It's a story of very dark nights followed by very bright dawns. What saved me was remembering the inherent goodness of God and that His grace overflows when we least expect it. Not long ago, I spent time at a Christian men's ministry just a couple of weeks ago. And here's what they do. They take men who struggle with addiction or homelessness and they help them get back on their feet. They feed them, they clothe them, they give them shelter and financial advice. They live out the very best part of Christ's commission. Now afterwards, I had lunch with 4 of these men. It was a couple of white guys, a Hispanic guy, and a black man. They had all struggled in their unique ways. Some had lost contact with their family, some of them for a very long time. Others were desperate to rebuild relationships with their kids so that they could see them on Christmas. But all of them were back on their feet. And what saved them? It wasn't racial commonality or grievance. It wasn't some philosophical jargon. It wasn't a DEI prep course, and it wasn't a welfare check. It was the fact that a carpenter died 2,000 years ago and changed the world in the process. If you go to almost any food pantry in this country, you will find Christians feeding the poor. If you go to addicts whose families won't even speak to them, like my mom was at a certain point of her life, it's often the Christian ministries that stay with them at their very lowest moments. You'll find Christians sitting patiently beside hospice beds and in recovery rooms and in all the places of the world where people have given up on other people. And this is the moral truth we strive to center in our work in the Trump administration and in this great movement of ours. A true Christian politics, it cannot just be about the protection of the unborn or the promotion of the family, as important as those things absolutely are. It must be at the heart of our full understanding of government. Why do we penalize corporations that ship American jobs overseas? Because we believe in the inherent dignity of human work and every person who works a good job in this country. Why have we worked without the help of Congress to...
We most definitely need y'all to double tap that screen, guys. Get the likes up. Double tap that screen if you're on a mobile device. That's how you hit the like button. Or click those 3 dots, hit that thumbs up, y'all. And make sure if you're new over here, you subscribing to the channel. Subscribe, guys. Get those likes up. Can we see 300 on the like, guys? Double tap that screen if you're on a mobile device. Or click those 3 dots, hit that thumbs up.
Restrict H-1B visas, for example, because we believe it is wrong for companies to bypass American labor just to go for cheaper options in the third world. We help older Americans in retirement, including by ending taxes on Social Security, because we believe in honoring your father and mother rather than shipping all of their money off to Ukraine. We believe in taking care of the poor, which is why we have Medicaid, so that the least among us can afford their prescriptions or to take their kids to see a doctor. And it's why we are outraged at the injustice of Tim Walz allowing Somalian immigrants to defraud that program to the tune of billions of dollars. It ought to go to Americans, because that's who it's there for. Now, I want to close, my friends, but I know I have heard you. I know that some of you are impatient at the pace of progress, and my response to that is good. Be impatient. Use that desire for justice for your country as fuel to get involved in this movement in a bigger and better and more powerful way. I know some of you are discouraged by the infighting over any number of issues. Don't be discouraged. Wouldn't you rather lead a movement of free thinkers who sometimes disagree than a bunch of drones who take their orders from George Soros? And I know many of you miss our dear friend Charlie Kirk. So do I. I miss his optimism. I miss his energy. I miss the phone calls where we'd strategize about how to get this or that GOP congressman to get off their ass and do something. But most of all, I miss Charlie's wisdom. I miss his reminder that politics is not a dress rehearsal or a game we are making decisions.
Now, they're making allegations against J.D. Vance saying that he's trying to get with Charlie's widow, allegedly. That's what they said. What y'all think about that?
That will save our country and give the American people a shot at their dreams again. If you miss Charlie Kirk, do you promise to fight what he died for?
Spaceman,
do you
say
promise to take the country back from the people who took his life? Do you promise to help defeat the radicals who cheered his death? Do you promise to honor his memory by having faith in the God he loved? My friends, commit to these things, and I promise you victory. I promise you closed borders and safe communities. I promise you good jobs and a dignified life. Only God can promise you salvation in heaven, but together we can fulfill the promise of the greatest nation in the history of the earth. Merry Christmas, my friends. Let's keep fighting.
All right, so that was J.D. Vance, y'all. You know, he most definitely spoke at the Turning Point USA press conference or whatever, and that's what he had to say. Now, he made references to Nicki Minaj, right? That's because she recently sat down with Erica Kirk and did like an interview, guys. Now, I don't know what this is all about. It seems like Erica may be coming out with a talk show. You know, Candace Owens and her have been going back and forth over these social media platforms and Candace's opinion. Well, it looks like Erica has stepped out, y'all, and basically it's looks like to be start some kind of a talk show. I mean, why else would she be interviewing Nicki Minaj? Nicki Minaj really got nothing to do with politics, but she did a sit down with Nicki Minaj, and this is what JD was referring to. Let's check it out.
I'm honored to be here. I am honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
Love you guys. So we're just gonna dive right into this. You had some fun words for Governor Newsom. I have to read these tweets because they're amazing and they're so funny. Okay, first one, we'll do this one. Unless you want to read it in your own voice, I think it'd be really great. Okay.
Oh, Gavy Poo, it only gets worse from here for you, buddy. It's the end of the road for you, my love. Get on the nearest jet ski and let that beautiful hair blow in the wind. It'll make you happier than this race that you will not win. Enjoy life. Peace.
Okay. One more.
Why not? Imagine being the guy running on wanting to see trans kids. Haha, not even a trans adult would run on that. Normal adults wake up and think they want to see healthy, safe, happy kids. Not Gav, the Gav nuts. Gav not in, Gav out. Send in the next guy, I'm bored.
Wow, guys. Why is she interviewing Nikki?
So I'm just gonna let you riff. Like, I want you to say whatever you want to say to Mr. Newsom.
Dear Newscomb, we don't have a problem cleaning up the scum if we have to. Please tread lightly. That's what I would say to Gavi Poo.
So with regard to the
She
current
keeps calling them Gavi Poo. They talking about Governor Newsom of California.
administration, what has been maybe the biggest surprise for you, or something that you just really has been put on your heart that you've learned about our president and our vice president?
Well,
let me tell y'all this. Now, she gave some props to Trump, and social media is most definitely talking about what she has to say right here regarding them. She says she liked Trump. Check this out. I ain't gonna spoil it. Let's go.
I have the utmost respect and admiration for our president. He has, I don't know if he even knows this, but he's given so many people hope that there's a chance to beat the bad guys and to win and to do it with your head held high and your integrity intact. He's from Queens, New York, like me. So, but what it's shown me personally is sometimes, you know, even in the worst feeling times in your life, you think that you're never going to come back from it. But you do. And our president shows that. He's been through every single thing a person could be through publicly. Having to constantly be lied on. It's not really that funny. Until you are in that person's shoes that's being lied on, you'll never understand what it feels like. That person is a human being. They have a family who has to read those lies. And that's not, and it's just not fair. But this administration is full of people with heart.
Nicki's a rapper, not a politician. What are we doing? Why do we got Nicki Minaj at a Turning Point USA function? I'm just trying to figure something out.
And soul. And they make me proud of them. Our vice president, he makes me, well, I love both of them, but they're both powerful men, smart, strong, all of that, but both of them have a very uncanny ability to be someone that you relate to. I can relate to them. When I hear them speak, I know that they're one of us. Like, I know that they're not, don't you guys agree? They haven't lost touch of the world. You know, they're still connected to the world and what's happening in the world, with the younger people and older people, with the richer people and not so rich people. They have the ability to still connect and be real and make us feel proud to be American.
So why now have you been involved with speaking about politics? What was kind of
what's the deal with you in politics? You a rapper.
I have something inside of me that's stronger than what's out there. That's right. So when you've had enough, you realize, wait a minute, why do I even care about these people and what they think? Who are they? They don't even know who they are. So I'm not going to back down
so
anymore.
Blessed. Thank you for
I'm not
being
going to back down ever again.
Amen. Can the students in the room raise your hand? Wow. This question is for you guys. So you guys are very courageous and bold on your campus. Nikki, I know our students feel this way, but why do you think speaking your mind has become so controversial?
Because people know.
Oh, that's them, not
Courageous
me.
and bold on your campus. Nikki, I know our students feel this way, but why do you think speaking your
Was she doing
mind has
interviews
become
before her
so
husband passed?
controversial?
No, IGT. No, she was not.
Because people no longer are using their minds, their brains. So right now, just imagine we're not allowed to have a different opinion anymore. We're not allowed to think out loud anymore. We're not, this is not what the world used to feel like. And especially for the young people, I don't want them growing up in a world where they feel like that. They deserve for their voices to be heard. They have valid feelings and they're thinking about things, and it deserves attention. We should listen to what they're saying. And if you're growing up in a world that tells you it's taboo to say something that the masses don't agree with, that's not okay. And we're not gonna have it. And I love this. It's giving the younger people confidence that they will need later on in life. You guys will need it, and you will have it. So I'm rooting for you.
Amen. Amen. Again, Charlie would always say, it really does not take skill to be courageous. It takes a choice. It takes a decision. And I want to say again, thank you for coming and being courageous and being able to share your heart with us. And the reason why that also holds true sentiment-wise is because I know that you are getting a lot of backlash from your own industry. What is your reaction to that?
I didn't notice.
Amen. I feel the same way.
Erica Kirk guys and Nicki
What do you
Minaj.
think about them? I'm like, I don't think about them.
Bingo. We don't even think about them.
We don't have time to. We're too busy building, right?
Yeah, we're the cool kids.
Okay.
The other people, they're the ones who are still just disgruntled, but really they're just disgruntled with themselves. They are angry with themselves, you guys. So you can't wake up and think about somebody who is determined to just stay mad. I literally tell them, stay mad.
Amen.
Stay mad. Because we're going to stay joyful and peaceful and iconic and smart. And we're going to stay thinkers. In a world that doesn't want us to think, we will think. By ourselves, on our own. We will continue to think.
Thank you, Blessed, for that 20.
This is something I know that's really important to you and on your heart. And I personally want to know what inspired you to speak out for the Christians that are being slaughtered in Nigeria.
Well, and that brings me back to our great president and this administration and our great country. That we take for granted that there right now in this world are people who cannot worship God as they please, where they please. We take it for granted because we have it. We can't even imagine not having that right. But every time we pray and fellowship, we have to remember the people that are right now in this world hiding to pray and fellowship. And we have to pray for them. And first of all, Nigeria is a place I've always loved. Someone very dear to me, my pastor, is Nigerian. I have lots of Nigerian barbs. And so hearing that people are being kidnapped, and while they're in church, people are being kidnapped, people are being killed, brutalized, all because of their religion. And that should spark outrage in the great America. And that's what it did. And again, we're not backing down anymore. We are not going to be silenced by the bullies anymore, okay? Know that. Hear that. Receive that, bullies. We won't be silenced ever again. We will speak up for Christians wherever they are in this world. Amen?
Amen. I don't know if you can see this.
Wow,
she's
guys.
getting a ton of standing ovations.
Erica Kirk out here giving interviews, guys. She is she's turned into a podcaster or something. You know, a talk show host. What is going on? Why is Erica out here interviewing Nicki Minaj? I need to know. Shout out to Rika. Thank you for that 5. Yeah, man, it's crazy. Nicki Minaj in politics. She's a rapper.
I love you guys so much. Thank you guys.
So going along that thread, can you tell us about your relationship with God? Because I think a lot of us want to hear.
Sure. Well, my relationship with God started, well, when I was a toddler in Trinidad. My grandmother, if things got spicy in the house, like if the kids and grandkids were arguing or fighting, she would make all the little kids go in her room and make us say our and say a prayer. So later on in my life, well, not much later, when I was like 10, 11, 12, I started going to church in New York. And it changed everything. It changed my life for the better because I was going every week. I was hearing the word of God be preached. And then I was going home and I was applying it to my life. Even as a little girl, I learned how to pray very early. I always had this faith that made people think, you know, the kind of faith that you think a person is crazy, like, oh, please, like, you know. But I had that faith instinctively once I started hearing about God and, you know, just getting more into the Bible. I got baptized when I was about, yep, amen. I got baptized when I was about 13. I got baptized. And I have just always applied those teachings to my life. I try to. And that's the thing. We're not perfect. We try. Sometimes I would wake up and feel so far removed from not God, but from fellowship. You know, I was like, oh my God, I used to go to church on Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday every week, like literally 3 days out of the week. And then later on in your life, you become busy and you start thinking, oh, well, you know, God is in my heart. And, you know, but then sometimes you can be in an industry as well that pulls you away even more. So lately, I've been feeling like,
Thank you, Shawty. No, that's
you know,
Chantel.
like if you
Chantel.
haven't
Thank
seen
you,
a
TC.
long lost best friend for, you know, for a long time and then you bump into them again.
Chantiva, thank
That's
you.
how it's been feeling
Thank
for
you,
me. Like
positive
just going
vibes.
back to God and praying and talking to him. And, you know, and he said to me, where were you? Where have you been? I've been waiting on you. And since that moment that God had that conversation with me, I've been in such a better space because now it's just, I'm thinking about, is God pleased with
For
it?
anybody that's not subscribed to the channel, man, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Most definitely double tap your screen if you're on a mobile device. That's how you hit the like button. Or you can click those three dots in the right hand corner, hit that thumbs up. This is Erica Kirk, guys, and Nicki Minaj. Erica Kirk interviewed Nicki Minaj. I don't know why, but hey, that is what's going on. You know, she's in a public feud with Candace Owens over her conspiracy theories. So maybe Erica's looking to get some get back by getting into podcasting or like what they call it, dang, I just said a while ago, a show of her own. I don't know, but she most definitely done interviewed Nicki Minaj.
Not if the bullies and uglies are pleased, but if God is pleased. And when you have that personal relationship with God, guess what? Even in school, he's there. Wherever you are and whenever you need it, you have something that you can tap into immediately. It's immediate. You don't have to leave a message. He's not going to call you back. He's there immediately.
Thank you, Purple
As soon
Groove.
as you call on him, on the first ring, he's going to answer. And I want you guys to remember that. You're young, and first of all, I want to say I'm proud of you guys. This is a major, to be so young, for you guys that are in college, to be so young and to care this much, this early in your life, it tells us how smart you are, and it tells us that there's hope for our future. So God bless you. Congratulations, you guys. You're amazing. Congratulations, you guys are amazing, okay? Know it, feel it. Yes, yes. Proudly, be it proudly. Be who you are proudly.
Amen.
Yes.
So, what have you, I mean, you're an amazing mother. What have you seen that has been a struggle for young women today? And then also, since both of us have little boys, I would love for
All
you
right.
to also talk
Ballin says it looked like she's picking up where Charlie basically left off and doing it her own way. Okay, I bet.
about the male side of that question as well.
Okay, well, something that I've noticed recently is that for little girls, I think that no matter how you look, we should be trying to instill into them to be proud of how they look. Recently, in the media, it's almost been like a push to, it's not just making young Black children feel proud of themselves, but it's almost like doing that and at the same time telling other children not to be proud of themselves. And I don't want any child feeling that way. If as Black women, we felt that we were not being represented and not being admired for our
Amazingly
beauty.
beautiful, say she
If we
faked to
felt
me.
like that as Black women,
Can we get 15 more people on that like button, guys? Double tap that screen. We 15 people away from 500 on that like. Double tap that screen or click the three dots, hit that thumbs up. Can we see 500 on the like? Shout out to everybody in the building. And we're 5 subscribers away from 57 0.8K, guys. So subscribe if you haven't subscribed as well. Thanks for everybody that hit that like button.
Why would we want to do that to other women? Why would we now need to make other people downplay their beauty so that we can feel, no, that's not how it works. I don't need someone with blonde hair and blue eyes to downplay their beauty because I know my beauty. Do you understand? It doesn't bother me that a woman feels and says that she's beautiful. Why shouldn't she feel that? Why have we gotten to a point where certain colors or certain kinds of people have to be afraid of loving themselves and loving the way they look? Like, isn't that wild? And so for little girls, I don't want what was done to little black girls done to little white girls. I don't want it done to any girls. I want all the little girls in the world to know that you are unique. You are beautiful. You are you. And you can compliment another girl. You can compliment another woman and still know that you are epic and amazing. So that's what I would say for the girls. And I know I know my adults understand clearly where I'm going with that, where I'm getting, I don't like that. I don't like people making other people feel badly about themselves in any way. We need to nurture young girls. Yes, whether they are black, white, Asian, Hispanic, they still need to be nurtured. They cannot continue to pay for other people's sins, so they haven't done anything wrong.
Amen.
Thank you.
And what do you think about for young men?
Thank you, Sue.
For young men.
And for young men, don't be new scum. Yes. See, dear young men, you have amazing role models like our handsome, dashing president. And you have amazing role models like the assassin J.D. Vance, our vice president. And when I say...
Called him the assassin. Oh, wow. That's what y'all was talking about earlier. Nikki called J.D. Vance. Remember, he was just praising Nikki for her point of view, about this interview that she did with Erica. She just called him an assassin. What is going on?
That. J.D. Vance, our vice president. Assassin J.D. Vance, our vice president. And when I say that,
trust me, there's nothing new under the sun that I have not heard, so you're fine. Yes, we did. I love you. You have to laugh about it, truly. I have been called every single thing, and you know what? God is so good, you let it roll right off your back, and this is what's so beautiful.
She didn't clear it up either. She didn't say she didn't mean to say it. She didn't say none of that. Erica said, I've heard it all, but wow. Nikki didn't even try to clean it up after she called him assassin. She just went mute. And Erica was like, well, I've heard it all. Wow, guys. Oh, my goodness.
About this moment, because if the internet wants to clip it, who cares? I love this woman. She's an amazing woman. She has a soul and a heart for the Lord, and words are words, but I know her heart, and it doesn't even matter. And you say what you want to say because I know your heart, and I do not judge that.
Sister. Thank you. For boys, be boys.
Amen.
Be boys. It's okay. Be boys. It's nothing wrong with being a boy.
Amen.
How about that?
Amen.
How powerful is that? How profound is that?
Amen.
Boys will be boys, and there's nothing wrong with that.
love.
Yeah, that's what I want to say.
Boys will be boys, huh?
What's something the media and the world in general misunderstands about you?
Oh, I think people think maybe that I'm mean, or, maybe when you have a strong presence as a woman, it's easy to just box you into one box, one category of mean or, other words.
They want to put you in a box to be able to label you what they want you to be, but you're so much more than that.
Because you intimidate them, and they want to find something. And if they can't find something, they'll make something up.
They will.
And so they'll put a label on you.
Thank you, Shan.
It doesn't, what people misunderstand about me now,
Thank you again.
I don't care about it. I really don't. In fact, I love that they misunderstand me now.
I do too, because it shows that you're not a part of this world. Someone once told me, do not be surprised when the world acts like the world. And I held on to that so much, because even being in this role now, they're trying to figure me out. Okay, enjoy. I am who I am. There's nothing to hide. And I know you feel the same way when people misunderstand you, and you're like, okay, well, I have an audience of one. Well, now I have an audience of two, but I have an audience in heaven, and I know the Lord knows me, Lord knows you, and he put everything in you to be able to make a difference in this world. Likewise to all of you students and everyone else here. And to go into that further, I know that and I'll end on this, I know that a lot of you guys have been hearing about, we are doing this for Charlie, or we're doing this for his legacy, but we're also doing it because each and every one of you guys have a legacy. And I want you guys, when you leave this conference, to take something with you. And when it gets tough out there, I want you to hold with you a word. It could be anything. For me, it's Charlie. But for you guys, it could be, I don't know, refocus, family, children, future, something. Hold that word in your heart, so that when you go back out into the world and you have someone screaming in your face, someone spitting in your face, someone flipping your table on campus, someone making fun of you because you're a conservative, someone making fun of you because you love the Lord, say that word to yourself out loud or internally, to refocus your brain and your heart and your soul, to know that you're about something so much bigger and greater. The legacy with Turning Point USA, yes, but also for yourself. And so, Nikki, I want to ask you in closing, what is something that you want to leave as a legacy in this world for your family, for your baby, for just everything?
Well, that it's okay to change your mind. It's okay to change your mind. You don't have to, sometimes there's a lot of things projected onto you when you change your own mind. They project fear, shame onto people who don't think and do as they think and do. But I've traveled the world. I've performed for huge crowds all around the world. And no matter how many songs I do on that stage, it didn't mean as much as this. Because this is a direct link for younger people. This is a direct link between young people and God. And there's been a lack of that. There's been a lack of that in our media, in our everyday conversations. people have been, interestingly enough, people have been Christians have been being persecuted right here in our country in different ways. So when we talk about Nigeria and other countries, know that prior administrations saw nothing wrong with that. And that's what was wrong with them. I truly feel that there are people out there who felt good about chastising Christians right here in our country. And it's kind of really, really sick. We can't let people like that be in power, you guys. That's the truth. I can sugarcoat it and laugh and kiki, but the truth is, I am here today to tell you guys that. We absolutely cannot let people who have a problem with us worshiping God, we cannot have them in power. We cannot have them in power. All you have to do is look at what is happening in other places in the world. Look at what is being done to Christians all around the world. And ask yourself why people in this country that were in positions of power felt so comfortable to try to take our voices from us. They were that afraid. They are that intimidated. They are that insecure. They are that small inside that hearing us and seeing us worship God irritated them. Our spirit irritates them because when we speak, they get shown up. When the truth walks in the room, the lies hide. They don't come out willingly. You gotta pry it out of them. They hide because they don't want you or anyone to know who they really are behind closed doors, because even they know how evil it is to try to deprive people of worshiping God.
Amen. We love you. Nicki Minaj.
Thank you, guys. My darling, thank you for having me.
Well, that was that, man. What did y'all think about Erica Kirk interviewing Nicki Minaj, man? I don't know what Nicki got to do with anything politics, because like I said, she's a rapper. That's crazy. I think she might be starting her own little show, might have a podcast or something. Erica might be doing a podcast, a talk show. Something was going on. I'm just saying I don't understand why she interviewed Nicki Minaj of all people. Nicki is not a politician at all. It's crazy. But hey, that's what they did. All right, which leads us to our next topic, guys. The Epstein files, right? What is going on with these Epstein files, man? We got people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, most definitely speaking out. She's been very vocal. Let's see what she had to say about these new findings in these new Epstein files and what exactly is going on and what she most definitely has to say about Trump.
For being here. Obviously, it's been a big day here in Washington and over at the White House. The people I've been talking to, it's a lot of the fallout from the Vanity Fair interview, the comments from Susie Wiles on the record that they've been defending against. Obviously, the president famously does not drink and never has. But when Susie Wiles compares him and says that he is the personality of an alcoholic, and the way she described that, she meant that he basically has a view that there's nothing he can't do, nothing, zero, nothing. Do you agree with that assessment?
I disagree with that. And we saw the major fallout happen yesterday with his statements on the tragic murder of Rob Reiner and his wife. MAGA faithful reacted big time. And they called it out. It's all over social media. People, his supporters, including myself, we didn't appreciate hearing the president, who himself was shot, and after Charlie Kirk's horrific murder, we didn't appreciate, even if you don't agree with Rob Reiner politically, there was no reason for his statement to be the statement that he made.
Yeah, when he says, I mean, it was in the immediate aftermath of us finding out about Rob Reiner, and obviously now his son has been taken into custody. You've said that his murder was not.
Remember, guys, to double tap that screen. Get the likes up. It helps out the channel. Double tap the screen if you're on a mobile device, or click those 3 dots, hit that thumbs up, man. And most definitely subscribe to the channel if you're new. We're 200 subs away from 58K. Shout out to everybody in the building.
Politics or political enemies. The president called him bad for our country and said he was a deranged person as far as Trump is concerned.
I thought that statement was absolutely completely below the office of the president of the United States, classless, and it was just wrong. It's a tragic murder. It's a family ripped apart. And from my understanding,
man, it was a lot of people that came out, basically in these files once they were released. Now, a bunch was redacted, but they released the photos. They had like Michael Jackson, Bill Gates, Chris Tucker, President Bill Clinton, and a host of other people that came out in these new pictures, guys. It's crazy, man. If you don't know, I'll most definitely let you see. I'm just saying.
Seen on the news, it was drug abuse and mental illness. And many families across America deal with family members that are drug addicts or have mental health issues. And I think the president should have responded with compassion and talked about those issues. He didn't have to make it about politics. And I think that was, it was really below what we expect our president to talk like.
It's clearly also really tragic just for the Reiner family.
Oh, yes.
I mean, you have no problem calling out what the president said, but why do you think other Republicans have struggled to do so?
I can't comprehend it, but Caitlin, I'd like to point something out. Just last week, and I think the dam is breaking. Many Republicans may not have called him out, but last week, 13 Republicans voted with Democrats to overturn one of President Trump's executive orders, which enabled him to fire federal workers. We also saw Indiana Republicans vote against redistricting. He didn't call any of them traitors and call for primaries against them. But I would like to say that that is a sign where you're seeing Republicans, they're entering the campaign phase for 2026, which is a large signal that lame duck season has begun and that Republicans will go in
Joshua.
for themselves in order to save their own re-elections.
You think the dam is breaking in terms of the president's iron grip of support when it comes to your party?
Absolutely. Those 13 Republicans that voted to take down his executive order last week, literally that same evening put on their tuxedos and their evening ball gowns and went to the White House Christmas party. That's pretty bold.
What do you think? Do you think that message is being received at the White House?
I'm sure it's being received, and there's a lot of pushback happening. You're seeing it all within the conference. And just to be clear, Caitlin, I have a 98% voting record with President Trump. The only places that I've stood against him on are, of course, with the victims of Jeffrey Epstein and the discharge petition against destroying state rights when it comes to making regulation and laws on AI, and then a few other issues like bringing in 600,000 Chinese foreign students, replacing American students. And I'm largely opposed to H-1B visas and visas replacing American workers. So I've only broken from the president in a few places, but he came down on me the hardest. But yet he's got real problems with Republicans within the House and the Senate that will be breaking with him on more things to come.
Yeah, you wouldn't know that you have voted with him as often as you have if you listen to his recent comments about you. And he was really critical of you when I asked him about you saying that he needs to focus more.
This is Marjorie Taylor Greene, guys, on her opinions of Trump.
domestic issues than foreign issues. That was something that Susie Wiles seemed to agree with in this remarkable on-the-record interview. She said that there need to be more talks about the domestic economy and less about Saudi Arabia is probably called for. Do you think that's a message that is breaking through with everyone but the president?
Absolutely. While CNN has been talking about affordability, all of a sudden, after Republicans got crushed in that election not too long ago, Fox News is all of a sudden willing to talk about affordability because it is a crisis. And health insurance is the coming crisis that we're trying to work on in the House right now, but they waited too late. Speaker Johnson kept the government shut down for 8 weeks, not the government, I'm sorry, the House of Representatives kept us out of session for 8 weeks during the government shutdown, but yet we could have been in Washington working day in and day out, preparing for this upcoming crisis. In my rural district, I have 75,000 people that are on ACA tax credits. And here's the truth for the Republican Party. The large portion of those 75,000 people are Republican voters. And so this is a real issue, but instead of working hard to come up with a solution, they have waited to the last minute, and we're literally weeks away from those expiring.
Do you think Republicans are going to rue the day that those Obamacare subsidies expire?
It appears to be that way. There's a lot of arguments going on in the conference, and that's been happening all day today on the House floor.
Yeah, it seemed quite tense today between House Speaker Mike Johnson and some of the moderates who want to vote on those Obamacare subsidies. On affordability, the president is going to address the nation tomorrow night. He says to talk about, basically what a great year they've had since he returned to office. Do you want him to hear him say there's no inflation like he did last week, which is not true?
It's not true. Inflation, of course, reached its highest point during the Biden administration, and Americans know that. Inflation has steadied around 2.5%, so he can't say there's no inflation. However, what I would like to see from the president is empathy for Americans. Donald Trump is a billionaire, and he's the president of the United States. When he looks into a camera and says affordability is a hoax and just totally tries to make nothing out of inflation, he's talking to Americans that are suffering and have been suffering for many years now and are having a hard time making ends meet. And so that's not the right message to tell Americans.
So what does he need to say tomorrow night, in your view?
In my view, I think he needs to actually dive all in on America First policies. He needs to keep Air Force One parked in the hangar and stay away from foreign countries. He needs to stop the revolving door of foreign leaders into his White House. He needs to stop embracing Al-Qaeda, ISIS terrorists that were once wanted by the United States.
Do y'all agree? She's saying what she's against that Trump does. Says she needs to stop making the White House a revolving door for foreign people. I'm just saying.
Who have now become the Syrian president, and stop calling people like me traitors. He needs to focus on the campaign policies that he promised the American people, not his big donors, not big pharma, not big tech, and not foreign leaders. He needs to focus on the people that stood in line in the freezing rain, the snow, the scorching sun, and all types of weather, and stood on their feet waiting to go into rallies to see him and to hear what he had to say. Those are the people that matter, not the lobbyists, not the big donors, and not the people he wants to have at White House big parties.
You mentioned
Thank
the
you,
few
Music
places where
King.
you've broken with him, including on the Epstein files and having those released. The DOJ deadline is Friday. And Susie Wiles was actually pretty critical of the Justice Department's handling of this so far. She said there is no client list, and it sure as hell wasn't on Pam Bondi's desk. Why do you think the Attorney General said that it was then?
I'm not sure. I don't have specifics on that, but I've listened to the women themselves. And the women themselves, a smaller portion of them, which is, there's a lot of them. They think there's around 1,000 victims. But a smaller portion of these women say that there is a list of men, rich, powerful men, that they were passed around to. Now, that's a list that they have kept to themselves, frankly, because they're terrified. These women don't have money to pay attorneys if they get sued. Every expense comes out of their own pockets. And after death threats that I've received supporting and keeping my name on the discharge petition, for the first time, I can understand exactly what they've been intimidated by for so many years. So as far as what Susie Wiles and Pam Bondi were talking, I can't speak to specifics on that, but I can speak to what the women have told me.
Do you believe that the president is not in the Epstein files, or that he's in them, but he's not in there for doing anything awful, as Susie Wiles put it? Do you think that that's true?
The women have said that Donald Trump did nothing wrong, and their attorney told us in a closed-door meeting, and also told us elsewhere, that Donald Trump was the only one that helped them when they went to trial. So I'm believing the words that they spoke.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, guys, you know, on the Epstein files and a couple of other issues, basically that she has to Trump, but most definitely doubled down and saying that Trump did nothing wrong, guys. Now, when these files were released, man, there were a lot of redactions, man, a lot. Check this out.
DOJ has begun releasing some Epstein files. We have the letter from the Deputy Attorney General. We have the several types of files, which I'm going to talk to you about. And we have the problem that, as many people were skeptically expecting, some of these pages are completely redacted, likely in violation of the law that President Trump signed after he lost his long clash to try to keep Epstein secrecy. I'm Ari Melber, a journalist, lawyer, anchor at MS Now. I'm going to do a big special breakdown right now, given this breaking news. We are just hours into it.
Everything that's out of the Epstein files, guys.
For these type of breakdowns. But let's get right to what the Deputy Attorney General is saying. Pam Bondi said a lot of things about this, and we know she lied. We know that she claimed she had a client list, then she claimed she didn't. Two opposites can't be true. And she has now been pulled to the background, and the Deputy Attorney General Blanche, Donald Trump's former defense attorney, has stepped up. And so what he says in this letter, I will tell you about it so you don't have to read it all line for line, and it's really not worth reading the whole thing for an informational perspective. But what he says is, we are trying to comply, but we're not going to give you all the documents. He says that the department has withheld and redacted, quote, a limited amount of information, that's debatable, otherwise covered by, and he refers to privileges. There are some legal privileges in the law, that means in the new transparency law, as well as in precedent, although it looks like the DOJ goes beyond that. He talks about what's in here. And this is important because there is new stuff in here. Whenever you deal with these kind of legal stories in the news, sometimes there's a quick narrative or headline.
Some of the things you can look forward to seeing, guys, going across the news is basically giving a breakdown of what you're going to get and what you're not going to get.
I get why.
From the Epstein files.
Here, but there is new material. He also describes the process, and this matters if they get taken to court, whether they're being truthful what they're doing. But he says that over 200 DOJ attorneys have been working on this. That is a huge number, a lot of resources. It reminds you just how big a priority and vulnerability this may be for Trump's DOJ. The most important part of this letter in my review is page 5, where you actually get details on what is new material. And this is important because the victims have spoken out about this. We've seen some politicians fight for transparency, and we've seen several administrations in both parties generally be secretive and not provide the information. So they say that this production includes portions, maybe not all, of the investigative files for Epstein's criminal case in 2018, the one where he never went to trial because he died under suspicious circumstances in prison. For the 2006 case, that was the Florida sort of sweetheart deal he got. For another related 2009 case, and the death investigation, and the grand jury materials. And so this matters because the law that was forced to be passed after all of this pressure, we all lived through it, is now getting, according to the DOJ, some of those materials out. And so there's going to be a process, and it's going to take days, if not weeks, to comb through this material, to see what's new, where they're telling the truth, to see what they've held back, and possibly for them to end up in court. I can also report that a member of the Oversight Committee for the Democrats told me Friday night they will be suing, that they already can see this is not full compliance.
The DMs are suing, guys.
In addition to this letter, when I'm
and they said they would.
They're not providing it all. As for what the categories are, I'm going to show you first what we're getting, and then what's already old or not really getting. They provide basically 4 categories under this new Epstein library that's on the DOJ website. I was looking through that. I'm going to just give you the straight evidence and facts here. One are court records. They describe that as having pre-existing.
Yeah, they done put out some blank pages too in the Epstein files.
Cases. They're putting up the files. Some of that are from those old cases where a minor or a victim's name has already been redacted, fine. But most of those court records, with some exceptions, have already gone through the system. They're not brand new. And then category 2 is the most important. They call that DOJ disclosures. That's things that the DOJ has from this Trump administration or before that may be new, not released. Then they have a Freedom of Information Act section. That's pretty much stuff that under federal law you've already gotten out. People can sue, journalists and other entities do that. It's not usually where the big, important, secret material is. And then finally, they have stuff they already gave to Congress. Who cares? That's not new. Then you have basically what I mentioned. This is just one example we were showing, about a 100-page document from one of these troves, and every single page, this is not a magic trick,
Every page is redacted.
fully redacted. It's very unlikely that that is a legitimate redaction. It's possible because you can't say for sure without knowing what's underneath it. But there are only certain things that Congress under this law said they can redact for. Like I mentioned, victims' names, investigative material, classified material. But an entire document about a dead sex trafficker wouldn't normally still be classified, and so it's hard to see
100
why those kind of
pages,
redactions
guys,
are valid.
of nothing.
And that brings me to what else I'm going to talk about in this report, which is what comes next in this fight. I also want to mention that what they're doing.
Let's slow you down real quick. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? This is crazy. A bunch of blank pages, guys. This is crazy. Check it out.
Been released by the Justice Department. We are sifting through them now, and we're going to bring you what we find as we and our teams find it throughout this hour. Let's get off the sidelines and head into the arena. My panel is here, and we're joined by CNN Crime and Justice correspondent Caitlin Polantz and CNN senior White House correspondent Kristen Holmes. Caitlin, first to you. I know that our teams are digging through these files. Is there anything you can tell us so far about what we've learned?
It's called the Epstein Library that's being released by the Justice Department. And Casey, it does include quite a lot of different types of materials about Jeffrey Epstein, some of which is already out there and some of which is very likely to have never seen the light of day before. The categories right now that the Justice Department is saying they're releasing the records on, and they have them all available for the public to view. That includes court records, Freedom of Information releases, some of the things that have already been out there, as well as documents that the House Oversight Committee has obtained and has been releasing, as well as the big part of this, the Justice Department's own disclosures. I'm looking at it now, and it's really extensive. There's multiple pages here. There's a lot of different lists of what's being put out in the public view. Some of that includes Epstein files that are being required by this law to be transparent by today. It looks to me like there are very large files here, data sets of information, and also some things we haven't seen before. Things we have seen before. Things like video from the Bureau of Prisons from when Jeffrey Epstein was in that facility, as well as audio of Ghislaine Maxwell speaking to the Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, earlier this year in a taped interview. So all of that is collected. We are going to be looking through it to see what's new. But Casey, I was just reviewing what is already out there. There is a great deal already out there, but what is in this is also likely to be very sensitive. Even just in reading the end of the trial against co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell, there is extensive discussion about the victims and how severe these crimes were. Girls as young as 14 being recruited from single-family homes largely to become people that Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein were both grooming through enticing them to be massage therapists or to be the recipients of massages. And there is extensive evidence already out there in the public record as to how great and vast this conspiracy went, how it existed over many, many years. In addition to that, I'm also looking for especially how the Justice Department has handled Epstein and Maxwell in the 20-some years of knowing that this conspiracy existed until Maxwell was convicted of crimes in 2021. That is something that we haven't seen a full autopsy of. We've seen bits and pieces of it, but seeing exactly how those choices were made, how the internal communications may have played out within the Justice Department to choose not to prosecute Jeffrey Epstein very severely in 2007 or 2008, and then to choose to indict him and Ghislaine Maxwell again in 2019, 2020, 2021. Those are all things to look for in these records. It's going to be a long night, and as the Justice Department has made clear, today is not the only day of this release. There could be many more documents to come for weeks ahead. Casey?
Weeks indeed. Kristen Holmes, to that point, I mean, how has the White House been bracing for this?
The White House doesn't want to talk about this. They have been doing everything they can for the last several months to try and distance themselves from the story, but it is the story that they just cannot shake. And now we're looking at day one of what is expected to be.
Shout out to everybody that donated to the channel and helped me reach that goal. Thank you for that $2, Amanda. Thank you. She says, thank you for doing this important info for sure. Already, I appreciate you as well. Thank you, Flip Mode. Shout out to everybody that's donating to the channel. Make sure you double tap that screen. That's how you hit the like button. That also helps out the channel. And most definitely, you can click those 3 dots, hit that thumbs up, and most definitely subscribe to the channel if you are new. What's up, Bobby?
A brand new chapter in the entire Epstein saga now that we have these documents, and this is going to continue for time and time again because the fact that it will involve President Trump in some way. Now, one of the things I hear from these White House officials, they are convinced that there is not going to be some kind of smoking gun in these documents that show President Trump did something illegal. They have argued to me time and time again that if there was something like that in these files, that it would have been brought out a long time ago, particularly under a Democratic administration. However, they are also keenly aware that anything, any document, any part of these files that shows or it reinforces the relationship President Trump had at one time with Jeffrey Epstein is likely to dominate any media coverage. It's going to eclipse anything.
Mr. Andrew, there is no bots in here. You know, I know you probably haven't seen this many people in a live stream before, but everybody is real. No bots in here. Now, you calm your heavily botted. You probably the bot. You calm down before we get you up out of here. Ain't no bots in here, sir. You're just mad, hater.
Else that President Trump is trying to do or is actually doing, and they have no appetite for this. And there's also someone else who has no appetite for this, and it's President Trump. And that was very clear when he was asked questions or when he was delivering remarks earlier today. And a man who almost always takes questions did this at the end of it.
I really don't want to soil it up by asking questions, even questions that are very fair questions that I'd love to answer. So I think we have to just stop right here. I don't want to be asking questions having to do with anything else. Thank you very much, everybody.
Trump took no questions on the Epstein files. Exited stage left on them.
Again, this is a White House, this is a president who is very aware of what is happening today with regards to the Epstein files being released. So it certainly seems like he did not want to have any part of that when reporters in the room were certainly going to ask questions.
They certainly were. All right, Kristen Holmes, Caitlin Polans, I think you'll likely be standing by for us as we sift through all of this, but I do appreciate your reporting here off the top. Ellie Honig.
All right, guys, let's hawk this. We got a live press conference going on right now with your President Trump, guys. You know what I'm saying? Him and Pete Hegseth are most definitely giving a conference right now. Let's go to the White House, guys.
Golden Fleet, we're calling it the Golden Fleet, that we're building for the United States Navy. As you know, we're desperately in need of ships. Our ships are, some of them have gotten old and tired and obsolete, and we're going to go the exact opposite direction. We're delighted to be joined by Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, who's doing a fantastic job, and Secretary of the Navy John Phelan. Marco Rubio is here.
This is Trump Live, guys. Him and Pete Hegseth talking about shipbuilding.
A couple of hours on what a good job we're doing, which is true. As Commander-in-Chief, it's my great honor to announce that I have approved a plan for the Navy to begin the construction of 2 brand new, very large, the largest we've ever built, battleships. You know, you used to build the Iowa, the Missouri, the Wisconsin, the Alabama, many others. We had big battleships. These are bigger, but they will have 100 times the...
That's Trump's battleship he's building, guys. The SS Trump.
There's never been anything like these ships. These have been under design consideration for a long time. And it started with me in my first term, because I said, why aren't we doing battleships like we used to? And these are the best in the world. They'll be the fastest, the biggest, and by far 100 times more powerful than any battleship ever built. So if you look at the Iowa, the Missouri, Wisconsin, Alabama, and others, but they were similar in size, some a little bit bigger than the others, but if you take the biggest one, it's 100 times more powerful. They're longer by a little bit, but and they're bigger ships, but they hold much more. They use the word lethality. Battleships are the largest, sturdiest, and most heavily armed vessel built specifically for naval combat. While America has built many new warships over the years, they've tended to be smaller and much smaller, and not conducive to where we are and where we're going, and peace through strength. But including, we've been building aircraft carriers. We're going to be upping that also. We're going to be going to a superior aircraft. We have the Ford class. We're going to be upping that to a different class of aircraft carrier. And we haven't built a battleship since 1994. These cutting-edge vessels will be some of the most lethal surface warfare ships. It will be actually the most ever built.
I can't check it right now, flip mode. It gotta wait till we get done.
In many ways, even more lethality, and we have many of them under construction. Each one of these will be the largest battleship in the history of our country, the largest battleship
Thank you,
in the
flip
history of the
mode.
world ever built. And again, it's 100 times more powerful than the previous Iowa class, it's called. Those are the big ones that you'd see on a show. Victory at Sea. I don't know if anyone's seen Victory at Sea, but it was a classic. They'll help maintain American military supremacy, revive the American shipbuilding industry, and inspire fear in America's enemies all over the world. We want respect. We're going to have it. We already have it. We're more respected now than we ever were. A year and a half ago, they laughed at us. Now they respect us again at levels that they've never respected us. We envision that these two ships, we're talking about 10, but we're going to start with 2, and we're going to quickly morph into 10. And ultimately, we think it's going to be anywhere from 20 to 25 of these. But we're starting with the first 2 immediately, and we're going to then be very quickly.
This is Trump Live, guys, on shipbuilding.
We're going to do another 8, and then we're going to ultimately and pretty quickly have a total of about 20 to 25. We'll make that determination. We envision that these ships will be the first of a whole new class of battleships to be produced in the years to come. From Theodore Roosevelt, the Great White Fleet, you remember that, the Great White Fleet, to the legendary USS Missouri, whose massive guns helped win World War II. America's battleships have always been unmistakable symbols of national power. We stopped making them for whatever reason, I don't know. And I want to congratulate John Thalen, who is your secretary of the Navy. He came to me the first day we met. He talked about battleships, and I said, you're absolutely on the right track. He said, why are we doing other things? We have missiles, which are much more expensive. By the way, these battleships have tremendous numbers of missiles, but they also have guns. And in many ways, guns can do the trick just as well as missiles at a tiny fraction of the cost. Once completed, these new 30 to 40,000 ton plus vessels will be the flagships of the American naval fleet, and there has never been anything built like them. And I just want to, be very clear that we're building them here. We're working with others, but we're building them here. We have great Navy yards. We'll be negotiating with some of the companies that are running those yards, taking over the yards. We used to build a ship a day during World War II. Now we don't do ships very much anymore. We do military ships. We do submarines. By the way, we're 15 to 20 years advanced in our submarines over anybody else. That was one of the things that I did in my first term. We make the best submarines by far in the world. We're at least 15 years advanced ahead of anybody else in submarine development. Most powerful, that's right, the most powerful weapon anywhere in the world, undetectable. So the battleships are going to be armed just in terms of guns and missiles at the highest level. They'll also have hypersonic weapons, many hypersonic weapons, state-of-the-art electric rail guns, and even the high-powered lasers that you've been starting to read about. We have lasers where you aim the laser at a target, it just wipes it out.
Oh, we got lasers now.
They'll be the most sophisticated lasers in the world, and the most sophisticated laser in the world will be on the battleships that we're building. They'll also carry the nuclear arms. She launched.
She says, shout out to Sultry for that file. She says, corruption at its finest. They're not changing everything just to leave office. The plan is to stay. That's when they.
The U.S. Navy will lead the design of these ships.
Faithful. Okay, I bet. Shout out to you.
Alongside our partners in American industry, and we're going to have Pete Hegseth and Marco and a lot of very talented people involved. But a lot of it's already been done. We've been doing this for months.
She said they're going to mess around and find out.
Thousands of American jobs. We're going to have the jobs be created. I mean, already we have factories being built unrelated to this, although AI will be a big factor when it comes to these ships. They'll be very AI controlled. Today's announcement is yet another step in our mission to make the United States Navy stronger than ever before. Again, when you talk about 100 times the power of these massive ships that we had years ago, it's pretty amazing. And next week, I'm going to meet with the defense prime contractors. I'm going to meet with them here, Florida. And we're going to be talking about production schedules because they're too slow. We have many countries, allies, that are wanting to buy. We make the greatest equipment in the world by far. Nobody's even close, but they don't produce them fast enough. So we're going to be meeting with them to talk about the production schedules. We're going to have strong production schedules. And the only way they're going to be able to do that is to build new plants. Even with the F-35, we have many people want the F-35 fighter jet. And it takes too long to deliver them to allies or to ourselves. It takes too long. The only way they're going to be able to deliver them is if they build new plants. They don't want to build new plants because that's expensive. So we're going to be discussing production schedules. We're going to be discussing CapEx spending. We'll be discussing the pay to executives where they're making $45 and $50 million a year and not being able to build quickly. They're going to make that kind of money. They have to build quickly. Again, we make the best equipment in the world, but they don't make them fast enough. And we're going to be also discussing dividends. We want the dividends to go into the creation of production facilities.
Perfection takes time, man. Perfection takes time. Why are you rushing
the
it?
Pay. We're also going to be talking about buybacks. They spend so much money on buybacks. They want to buy back their stock. I don't want them to buy back their stock. I want them to put the money in plant and equipment so they can build these planes fast, rapidly, like immediately. I mean, I have sold more planes than any president by far, times probably 20. So every time I go someplace, I sell 100 planes. That includes commercial planes, Boeings, etc., but it also includes fighter jets. And I'm always having to say 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, helicopters, Apache helicopters, many years. India bought them. They want to get them. They don't want to wait a long time. So we don't want to have executives making $50 million a year, issuing big dividends to everybody, and also doing buybacks. And then they say, well, we don't have the money to build a plant. They got to build plants. Plants to make F-35s, plants to make helicopters, plants to make the F-47 new jet. And that's it. And that's what I'm going to be talking to them about. They're going to start spending money on building airplanes and ships and the things that we need, not in 10 years and 15 years. We need them now. And we're strong about it. Last week, the Navy announced a brand new class of frigate And they're going to be working with the South Korean company. Hanwha, good company, recently agreed to invest $5 billion in Philadelphia Naval Shipyard. We're opening up the Philadelphia Shipyard, once a great yard. Now it was a long time ago decommissioned, but now it's reopening. Working with the Navy and working with private companies. The record-setting defense bill I signed last week authorized $26 billion to build new ships, including destroyers and various others. We already have a lot of submarines, as you know, under construction. We're building a lot of submarines. I tell you, to be exact, we have right now 15 submarines under construction or ready to start. And we have, again, the greatest submarine in the world with our technology, like they talk about chips. Well, I would say submarines are a bigger deal than chips. We're at least 15 years ahead of any other competitor. China, Russia, nobody can come close. We're also building right now 3 large aircraft carriers in addition to the ones we have. And we have, actually, interestingly, we have a lot of submarines. How many submarines do we have now altogether, approximately? Huh?
You say we lead the world in submarine building, guys.
But these are the super duper
and technology. As far as submarines
so we're
go,
going to be doing from 12 to 15 brand new submarines. We have a couple of other things going on. We'll be building other elements of Navy. We'll be fixing up headquarters. We'll be fixing up places for our great sailors to live. And we're going to be working very hard with companies, but we're also going to be penalizing companies that aren't doing a good job. For instance, when they built the Ford, Gerald Ford, the cost overruns were ridiculous. That was done in Norfolk, Virginia. We're going to be talking about that with that company. The cost overruns were out of control. In World War II, the United States built upwards of 4 ships per day. Can you believe it? 4 ships a day, on average. And now there weren't all big warships, but there were ships, freighters, tankers. And it's a tragedy that we allowed this incredible capability to just go astray. We don't do that much anymore. We do build our warships, but that's about it. But that's a lot. We're going to restore America as a major shipbuilding power. We're going to ensure the USA is the most powerful fleet anywhere in the world.
What's up,
Going
KC?
into the future with battleships helping lead the way and the submarines that, again, nobody competes with us on submarines.
Thank you,
So
Lars, everywhere.
I just want to thank everybody, and I'd like to ask Secretary Hegseth to say a few words, followed by the Secretary, but if you would, Secretary of the Navy. But Pete's doing a fantastic job. By the way, we have drugs are down 96.2% coming into the United States. 92.6 by sea. And soon we'll be starting the same program on land.
So now he's justifying the blowing up of the ships, guys, in Venezuela. That's what he's talking about right now.
Saved 25,000 lives. So we saved 25,000 lives every time we knock out one of those boats with the drugs pouring in. And you just have to see it. I mean, people say, "Oh, gee, do you think it was really drugs?" Well, just take a look. Bags all over the place. That's not fishing equipment. There's no fishing rods on those boats. They move fast. When you see a boat with 4 engines or 5 engines on, going 40, 50 miles an hour, well, they get hit. We save 25,000 lives every single time we knock out a boat. And it's over 96% stopped by sea. We're trying to figure out who the other
Trump, they say you say that, but then you release the kingpin. I'm just saying, pardon him.
But even quicker, because it's much easier on land. If they want to come by land, they're going to end up having a big problem. They're going to get blown to pieces because we don't want our people poisoned. 300,000 people died, probably last year, 300,000. A lot of people say it was 200. Somebody said last night, it was only 175,000 people. That's like 3 stadiums, big football stadiums filled up with people died. But I think the real number is 300,000. We're not going to have that anymore. So we're doing a great job, and we enjoy doing it. Our border is secure. Our country is strong. trillions of dollars is coming into our country from other countries and companies. They're building factories and plants, including auto plants, all over the United States of America. Without tariffs, they wouldn't be doing anything, although they were very happy with the November 5th election. But it's only because they want to avoid paying tariffs that they're all coming in. And again, the biggest number was $3 trillion in history. That was China many years ago. Now it's $18 trillion, and that's just in 10 months. We think we could hit $20 trillion. That's investment in the United States, including plant and equipment. So thank you very much, and I'll ask Pete to say a few words, and then John. And if you have any questions, we'll take them. Thank you.
Well, Mr. President, you're exactly right. There are no fishing poles, no fishermen, and no fishing boats, just drug dealers and narco terrorists. And with every strike, we're saving American lives. No other president was willing to do real deterrence. That's exactly what's happening. It's an honor to be here, Mr. President, Mr. Secretary, Secretary Rubio, to talk about what peace through strength really looks like. You can talk about it, or you can invest in it, and you can build it. And that's exactly what President Trump is doing. At the Department of War, we're restoring the warrior ethos. In fact, the president mentioned the NDAA. We put into law merit-based. We put into law getting rid of DEI and political correctness. That's now part of how our military operates. And you've seen it in record recruiting in the spirit of the Department of War. We're rebuilding the military. President Trump did it once. He's doing again with historic investments today in shipbuilding. And we're reestablishing deterrence, whether that's at the border, whether it's through Golden Dome, what happened with Midnight Hammer and what Iran found out, those drug boats.
Boy, you in plenty of hot water, Heck. They want you up out of there. They say you don't know what you're doing.
And the announcement of the Golden Fleet, anchored by new battleships, the biggest and most lethal ever, accomplishes all three of those things and marks a generational commitment to American sea power. Across the entire department, we are developing new operational concepts, deploying cutting-edge technologies, and making major investments, including in our Navy. This is happening in all domains, including space, as the president has talked about before anyone else. So it's the highest of domains and the lowest of domains under sea, and especially today in sea power, that always has to be decisive, has been in the history of America, and will continue to be under the leadership of President Trump. We will make sure that anything that flows from our country and with our allies flows freely and uncontested. New and better ships will provide that deterrent today and for generations to come. This new class, these new investments will be the types of things that for decades, for centuries, the American people will look back and thank President Trump for having the vision
Trump,
and the willingness to invest right now in capabilities we need today, tomorrow, and long into the future. So, Mr. President, thank you for this investment, and I'll hand it over now to the Navy Secretary.
Mr. President, Secretary Hegseth, Secretary Rubio, thank you for being here on a very consequential day. From my very first conversation with President Trump about serving as the Secretary of the Navy, he's talked about the great Iowa-class battleship and why America doesn't build ships anymore with that kind of offensive firepower that takes the fight to the enemy. During my time in the job, I've talked extensively with our combatant commanders, like Admiral Paparo and Admiral Cooper, and our CNO, Admiral Cottle.
We're 7 subscribers away, guys, from 57.9K. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe to the channel, man. This is Trump Live talking about shipbuilding with the Secretary of what was it? The Secretary of something. Pete Hegseth and himself, guys. Make sure you double tapping that screen. That's how you hit the like button. And most definitely subscribe to the channel if you're new.
The United States Navy. The Iowa was designed to go on the attack with the biggest guns. And that's exactly what will define the Trump-class battleships. Offensive firepower from the biggest guns of our era. This ship isn't just to swat the arrows. It is going to reach out and kill the archers. And for the first time in generations, we'll have a new leg in America's nuclear deterrence, because the Trump-class battleship will carry the nuclear-armed sea-launched cruise missile. Striking dominance isn't all that the Trump-class
Secretary of the Navy, thank you so much.
At sea. It has the size and
I had a
capacity
brain freeze
to serve
right
as
then.
a flagship for our fleet commanders so that they can command and control naval forces far out to sea. As shown in the series, and the President mentioned it, Victory at Sea, Admirals Bull Halsey and Raymond Spruance commanded the war in the Pacific from their battleship flagships during World War II. Now this new battleship will command everything from warships to drones and everything in between. We're going to make battle groups great again. And this is just one piece of the President's Golden Fleet that we're going to build with the investments he talked about. A new frigate, the right frigate, the one our warfighters have told us they need. More amphibious power for our Marines with new capabilities like the medium landing ship. As part of the Navy's high-low mix, we're moving out aggressively on unmanned vessels with funding from the President's One Big Beautiful Bill to bring options to the fight and pull new, non-traditional defense partners into the American shipbuilding ecosystem. And we're making a generational investment in support ships. Logistics wins wars, and that kind of shipbuilding is the spark that will ignite the industrial base and help power the commercial shipbuilding that the President has called for. Under your leadership, Mr. President, we will have more tonnage and firepower under construction than ever before in our history. Building the President's Golden Fleet means jobs across the United States now. There'll be work for shipyards everywhere, from Philadelphia to San Diego, from Maine to Mississippi, from the Great Lakes to the Gulf Coast. And for manufacturers that will build components for this battleship in every state. The President has been clear. We must bring back our American maritime industrial might. And he has told me many times that as Secretary of the Navy, it is my job to equip our sailors to win the fight at sea with the finest ships in our history. To conclude, the USS Defiant battleship will inspire awe and reverence for the American flag whenever it pulls into a foreign port. It will be a source of pride for every American when it brings home our brave sailors who will sail defiant, raise their fists, and say, "We are peace through strength." And our adversaries will know when the Trump-class USS Defiant appears on the horizon, American victory at sea is inevitable. Thank you, Mr. President. Now when a conflict arises, you are going to ask not one, but two questions. Where are the carriers and where are the battleships? Thank you.
I just want to mention that John Phelan is one of the most successful businessmen in the country, in our country. Been a tremendous success, and he wanted to do this, and for nothing. He's taken probably the largest salary cut in history, but he wanted to do it. He wants to rebuild our Navy, and you needed that kind of a brain to do it properly. So I just wanted to give you a little information on him, which is probably enough. But one of the most successful men in the country, and he's that because he understands it, and he understands finance in addition to what we're talking about. Somebody who's doing a fantastic job is Marco Rubio, Secretary of State. And Marco, maybe say a few words, and then we'll answer some questions. Thank you.
They go, how much y'all want to bet they ask him about the Epstein files? He gonna cut them questions short.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is American industrial power returning. This is the ability, once again, to rebuild, to have industry in the United States. This is generational in the change, not just in terms of applying American war power, increasing our ability to protect the seas. The U.S. Navy is the single biggest source of peace in the world of all of our forces because it gives us a global footprint. But it rebuilds American industrial capacity. The ability to make things again in our country has been critical to what the President's agenda has been all about, and this is a tangible reminder of it. And I know the country's grateful for it, and generations of Americans will be grateful for it. So thank you.
Thank you, Marco. By the way, I think I'd just like to point out that these ships are made of steel as opposed to aluminum. It's a big difference, as you know. Battleships, the great battleships, had 6- and 7-inch steel hulls, and these are going to be likewise made out of very powerful steel. Our steel industry is coming back very strongly, by the way. It's coming back at record numbers, and we're going to be using them for the steel, but as opposed to an aluminum side, which, in all fairness, is not the same. So, John, we're going with all steel, I understand, and that's going to be something that people are surprised, more expensive, but not even comparable in terms of the importance and the strength. Yeah, please.
For these first two ships, and do you see them as a
Yeah,
counter
we're
to China?
going to start almost immediately. We're probably talking about 2.5 years.
In terms of the mission, do you see it as a counter to China?
It's a counter to everybody. It's not China.
Let's see if they ask him about Epstein.
Relationship with President Xi, and not China. It's just everybody. You don't know who comes along, but we just wanted peace through strength. Hopefully, we never have to use them, but there will never be anything built like these. Think of it. Those battleships are incredible. These have 100 times the power. Think of that. I mean, and they were big and they were powerful. You know, I thought about taking some that are in dry dock and changing them. And then when I said that, you know, if we did, would be about, we could increase, if we doubled them, they'd be at like just a tiny fraction of what one of these was. This is the new technology, which is incredible. So we decided pretty early on not to do that. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, Julio Rosas with Most Peaceful Media. You just referenced the lower amount of illegal drugs that are coming by sea, and you just said that you're going to start that same program on land soon. Are you just referring to Venezuela, or are you referring to other countries in Latin America?
Anywhere drugs are pouring in, anywhere, not just Venezuela. Yes.
Speaking of Venezuela, oil. What are we going to do with the oil that we have?
Going to do with what?
The oil that has been seized. The United States seized 1.9 million barrels of oil on December 10th.
We're going to keep it.
Say we keeping that oil.
Are we going to sell it or put it in the strategic
Maybe
oil
we'll sell
reserve?
it. Maybe we'll
Trump
keep it.
said we keeping that
Maybe
oil.
We'll use it in the strategic reserves. We're keeping it.
Some people
We're
say that's
keeping
what this
the
is all
ships
about.
open.
It don't have nothing to do with drugs. It got to do with oil, allegedly.
About Venezuela, sir, have you spoken to American oil companies that have had their assets seized about what a post-Maduro
Yes.
Venezuela would mean for them, of what coming
I have
back and restarting
all
operations?
the big ones, yeah. I have. Yeah, please.
Why do you feel like this initiative was neglected for so many years, and does this come amidst the rising tensions between the U.S. and Venezuela?
We're talking about with Venezuela?
Yes.
Well, you had a different kind of a president before me. They didn't mind being ripped off. They didn't mind being robbed. They didn't mind drugs pouring into our country. They didn't mind the jails of Venezuela and Trinidad being emptied into the U.S., where they take over Colorado and other places. I do mind. So you had a different kind of a president. I hope people are enjoying it because we've never been respected more than we are now. Yeah, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Are you surprised by the number of photos of Bill Clinton?
Let's go. Now go to Epstein. I told y'all.
Surprised by the number of photos of Bill Clinton in the Epstein files, and can you commit to their full release by the end of the year? Some of the victims were protesting that too many of them were redacted.
I know there are a lot of people that are angry about all of the pictures of other people, you know, but I think it's terrible. Look, I like Bill Clinton. I've always gotten along with Bill Clinton. I've been nice to him. He's been nice to me. We've always gotten along. Respect him. I hate to see photos come out of him, but this is what the Democrats, mostly Democrats, and a couple of bad Republicans are asking for. So they're giving their photos of me too. Everybody was friendly with this guy, either friendly or not friendly, but they, you know, he was around. He was all over Palm Beach and other places. The head of Harvard was his best friend, Larry Summers, and Bill Clinton was a friend of his. But everybody was. I actually threw him out of Mar-a-Lago, and as a person that was in Mar-a-Lago, I threw him out. Mar-a-Lago this is Mar-a-Lago. It's the hottest place I think it's the hottest place in the world, but it's the hottest place in Florida. And everybody would come here. He'd come here. We actually threw him out. But no, I don't like the pictures of Bill Clinton being shown. I don't like the pictures of other people being shown. I think it's a terrible thing. I think Bill Clinton.
I knew they was going to ask
him. Big boy, he can handle it. But you probably have pictures being exposed of other people that innocently met Jeffrey Epstein many years ago, and they're, highly respected bankers and lawyers and others, and they'll end up, because of guys like Massey, who's a real lowlife, whose polls are down to about 9%, by the way. In the great
Trump
state of
speaks on the
Kentucky.
Epstein files.
Kentucky is such a great place, but I don't know. They've got a couple of people on there that are very strange in terms of leadership. But Massey's a loser, and he likes it, and that he works with the Democrats. He's just being used by the Democrats, because what this whole thing is with Epstein is a way of trying to deflect from the tremendous success that the Republican Party has. Like, for instance, today we're building the biggest ships in the world, most powerful ships in the world, and they're asking me questions about Jeffrey Epstein. I thought that was finished. I believe they gave over 100,000 pages of documents, and there is tremendous
Trump do
backlash.
not want to
It's an
talk
interesting
about
question
Epstein.
because a lot of people are very angry that pictures are being released of other people that really had nothing to do with Epstein, but they're in a picture with him because he was at a party, and you ruin a reputation of somebody. So a lot of people are very angry that this continues. A lot of Republicans are angry because of the fact that it's just used to deflect against a tremendous success. Look, we have $18 trillion coming into our country. We have, I believe, we're going to have the most successful economy in history. We inherited a mess. Now prices are coming way down. Gasoline is less than $2 in some states, $1.99, $1.97, $1.95 a gallon. $1.95. Think of that. A gallon. Nobody ever thought they'd see that. They don't want to talk about that. They want to talk about Epstein. The problem is a lot of Democrats are being caught up in the web, like Larry Summers. Larry Summers.
Hey, they about to make Trump start cussing.
He's now been forced to resign from every board he's on, and he was thrown off the Harvard board. Now, he was at Epstein's Island a lot. I wasn't. I never went there, by the way. But fortunately, it's nice. But I never went there. But a lot of people did go there. But instead of talking about the battleships, or instead of talking about
Epstein,
most favored nations, drugs, we're bringing down drug prices like at a level that has never even been thought of, by thousands. Think of it, by 1,000%, by 1,200, 1,300, 1,400% in some cases. A drug that sells for $10 in London is costing $130 in New York. We're bringing it down to $20, and they're going to go up to 20. So
Trump's changing the subject.
It's a doubling. It's a lot, but it's a doubling. But we're going down to 20. So we're going down. If you can do your own math, but it's 2,000%, 3,000%. It's pretty amazing. And you know, the New York Times had a story about it, a small story, way in the back of the paper. It's the single biggest thing to happen with respect to drugs probably in 50 years. There's never been anything like this. In my first term, I was able to get drug prices down 1/4%. It's the first time in 28 years that they went down. 1/4%.
Hey, well informed, he done changed the whole situation up. He don't not want to talk about Epstein.
1,200%. That pill that sold for $130 will now be selling, as an example, for $20. Because the rest of the world took advantage of us. Without tariffs, I could have never done it. I called up the heads of the countries, as an example. France, I spoke to a very good man, President Macron of France. And I said, Emmanuel, you have to raise your drug prices. He said, no, we will not do that. I said, you have to. He said, no, I don't want to do that. Look, you're asking me for go to $10 to $20. You're going to come way down to 20. We don't want to do that. Now, in all fairness, no other president even tried. But if they did try, there was actually a fake story.
They go well informed.
Stupid USA Today. I didn't even think they make it anymore.
Trump about to talk the rest of the time out. They didn't get to ask no more questions.
Trying to do this. Biden never tried to do it. Biden didn't know he was alive. He never tried to do it. But they're taking it from $10 to 20. So he would say, and the other leader said the same thing. No, we won't do it. I said, no, you're going to do it 100%. They said, nope, we're not doing it. We're not going to double our price. Because, again, if you go from $10 to $20, they're doubling their price. We're coming down, though, from $130 to $20, because we're going to get the lowest drug prices in the world. Whatever the lowest price is called favored nations. We're going to have the lowest price. So I said, no, you're going to. No, I will not do this. Politically, it's unacceptable. I said, Emmanuel, you're going to do it 100%. Please accept it now.
And he doesn't even know what he's talking about. Let's go, KCL.
I said, yes, you are. He said, why do you keep...
He making sure they ain't answering no more. They ain't asking no more questions. That Epstein question just messed it all up. He gonna talk the rest of the time up, then say thank you and walk off.
With respect to drug prices, he said, I see. I agree to do it. Every other country said the exact same thing. They all said, nope, I will not do it. I said, all right, on Monday morning, you'll have the 25% tariff, everything you sell. In the case of France, it was wine, champagne, cars, everything they sell.
Right, Bobby.
It's 25 to 30 times the price of what we're talking at 25%. Every single country agreed. And that was a big problem. The drug companies were difficult, but fine, because we have a certain control over the drug companies. We had no control over these foreign nations. So every single
man, ain't nobody asked you nothing about drugs.
So
How did we get here? We was talking about Epstein, Trump.
Down as an example, talking about not just pills, we're talking about everything. We'll take it down from $130 a pill down to $20 a pill. And the rest of the world will take it from $10 a pill up to $20. It's the biggest thing ever to happen, and it's covered, barely covered in the New York Times, because it's a fake newspaper, yeah.
Or that there's sufficient workforce availability as you're producing these chips?
Could you speak up?
How does the administration plan to ensure there is sufficient workforce availability as you're producing these chips?
We're going to have it. We're going to have tremendous workforce availability. We're also going to have robots helping us. We're going to have a lot of robots helping us because we need it, and because we're going to town. We're building a lot between the AI and the auto plants. So we're going to need robots. We're going to have robots. But that's going to help us. We're going to have tremendous workforce, and in order to operate you're always going to need people. You know, you can have robots, but you're going to have to get somebody to start those robots, and you're going to have to improve the robots. But we're going to have robotic factories plus manpower. So we're going to have enough. We're going to need the help of robots and other forms of, I guess you could say, employment. We're going to be employing a lot of artificial things, but the beauty is we're going to have more jobs than we've ever had. Just so you know, a number came out the other day. We have more jobs right now in the United States. More people are working right now in the United States than at any time in the history of our country. Think of that. Pretty amazing. So we'll have the help of, mechanical help, if you want to call it that, but we'll have tremendous employment. They'll be paid a lot of money. They'll do better than they ever did. Okay?
Some may have been expecting a different kind of announcement today, hearing your Secretary of War and Secretary of State here. You mentioned strikes on land in Venezuela more than 15 times, even now, just in your recent remarks. Why should Maduro take your threats seriously? And
He can do whatever he wants.
What's your end
Maduro?
game? What's your end
He
game?
can do. There's no answer. He can do whatever he wants. I mean, we have a massive armada formed, the biggest we've ever had, and by far the biggest we've ever had in South America. He can do whatever he wants. It's all right. Whatever he wants to do. If he wants to do something, if he plays tough, it'll be the last time he's ever able to play tough.
Oh!
But they sent their prisoners.
Trump say he want to play tough. It'll be the last time. Let's
prisons,
go.
They sent people from mental institutions and insane asylums into the United States. Just walked right in because Biden had an open border policy. What the Biden administration did to our country can never be forgotten. They took in millions and millions, 25 million people over the course of 4 years. Many of those people were murderers and drug dealers, prisoners, rough prisoners. 11.
All right, Trump. He talking about shipbuilding. We was on the Epstein files, right? One of the survivors basically came out and talked about these redactions off in these files. Let's go back over here. Let's get back on topic, man. That was Trump on shipbuilding and how he feels about Bill Clinton being in the Epstein files. This is one of the survivors, guys, who did most definitely did a recent interview about the release of the Epstein files, what they have put out, and the heavy redactions, guys. Let's see how the survivors are feeling about what's going on with this Epstein situation.
On podcast. So Lisa, welcome. What is your reaction to the first batch of materials released by the DOJ? Is it what you expected?
It's not what I expected. The survivors, we supported Kana and Massey to come out to DC on numerous occasions. We're doing all the work that we can, and we just feel like the Epstein Transparency Act was a failure. It didn't comply with legislation.
She said it was a failure. Trump and them just doing whatever they want.
On our book, we haven't received full transparency. It's heavily redacted, and it's an incomplete release of the files. But what we are happy about is that if you look a little deeper into the files, if you look into Maria Farmer, she spoke out in 1996, and she went to the FBI because of some child pornography images that were sold of her and her sister. And the FBI hasn't acknowledged that complaint. They keep saying that there's all these like misunderstandings, but in the files, those were found. So we are so happy as survivors that there was actual evidence in the files that was released recently this week to support Maria Farmer's claims, that she reported to the FBI in 1996. And if they had listened to her way back then, almost 30 years ago, maybe a lot of the survivors, including myself in the early 2000s, wouldn't have been abused. So that's a good part about the files coming out, is we are getting those types of answers.
Can I ask you, Lisa, what I do appreciate so much about you is your candor, saying it's disappointing and yet you look for the silver lining. How long have you had to do that? How long can you continue to maintain that positivity with expectations and still be let down at least incrementally along the way?
Well, I always know that we're going to be let down along the way. We know this is a hard fight. We know this is a multi-layered onion, stinking onion, that we're peeling back the layers on. I've had to overcome a lot of grief and shame with coming out and speaking about my personal story. But I've always looked at, like you said, the silver lining. I've always been very positive, and just knowing that I represent hundreds of young women that were abused by Jeffrey Epstein in the early 2000s, hundreds of them. The DOJ said this week there was 1,200 that they counted in the files. 1,200.
Yeah.
That's a lot. And I'm a mother of a 14-year-old child. The 14-year-old's a child. And most of the women that I stood up there with on Capitol Hill, they were 14 when they were abused by him. This is unacceptable. When Maria Farmer came forward in 1996, they should have investigated, they should have done everything in their power to stop this man. There was more than enough evidence back then. And there's more than enough evidence now, 30 years later, and we're still going through the same hoops. We're jumping through the same hoops. So it's very frustrating.
So the Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, admits, yeah, this isn't everything, and more will be released in the coming weeks. But are you surprised that DOJ didn't meet the lawful deadline to release all these files? I mean, does it create questions or concerns for you?
Absolutely. Like, what are you covering up? How are these people so much more important than the lives of innocent, teens and young women and anybody else who was affected or abused through this sex trafficking ring? There's so much evidence to support it. And Fallon Gallagher was just saying how, you're looking at these pictures and the pictures are showing, oh, nobody's doing any wrongdoing. But yeah, it's just a picture. Why don't you start investigating why they're in those pictures, the call logs, the dates they're there, and match those up to the survivor stories? Because I saw people in those pictures that match up with survivor stories of abuse. So yes, they're just pictures, but Epstein also had and videoed everything on his island and in his homes. So I think they need to start doing a lot more work to find answers.
So there are 500 pages that were released that look like this. Okay, 119 of them are grand jury New York, right? I mean, this is
that
is
is
what it looks
crazy.
Like, everybody. Completely redacted.
Completely
blank.
blank,
any
guys.
sense of what could be here underneath these blank pages?
Well, that's just a punch in the gut. I mean, what was the point of even putting out black pages, which tells you there's something probably incriminating, right? There's some words on there, pictures, evidence. Why are they redacting that? Like, the whole point of this was to show everything, full transparency. That's what we're fighting for. so that survivors can get answers, the American public can get answers of what's going on in America, and turning this into an issue where, you know, Democrats and Republicans and everybody's fighting about everything. This is not an issue. This is not a political issue. This is a human rights issue. And that's what I'm always fighting for. Those are the answers I'm fighting for. It's a human rights issue.
So, last question as we move forward with this, what is the best case scenario for you, Lisa, and what is the worst case scenario?
The best case scenario would just to get the answers and connect the dots of what's really going on with some of these people, well, all the people, and also the institutions that they're involved with. When the survivors come forward, we figure out, well, how come so many of you got visas to work in the United States that you didn't earn? How come so many of us went to the same university?
Great question.
So much of us met the same director or the same people in those pictures. It's not adding up, and we need answers, and those answers are going to help figure out this whole web, this whole trafficking web. Basically, that's what it is. It's a trafficking web.
So, real quickly, you said about 1,200 women have been abused that you're aware of. So, how many have yet to come forward?
Well, I know before we spoke out at Capitol Hill, there was maybe about 300 that have come forward. After I spoke out and I said, I'm talking to you survivors out there, please come to us so we can create our own list, which just meant that we could start looking at our stories and connecting the dots, in which we have been. Hundreds have come forward, well, not hundreds, less than 100 has come forward since then. The DOJ, they're the ones that said there was 1,200 by going through the files. I knew it was probably close to 1,000 just because I was a young model in the early 2000s, and I already knew of hundreds that were abused by Jeffrey through the modeling sex trafficking ring that was going on. There was many model agents sending models to Jeffrey and vice versa under the guise of castings or Victoria's Secret or things like that. So I already knew that. And then we know about the hundreds in Florida of the younger women that were 14 to 17. So then we know of all the Eastern Europeans, and these are the biggest amount of survivors that don't speak out. They're the most scared. They live in fear, and they have, you know, every right to feel that way because a lot of them got their visas to work in the United States. And so this just goes in so many different directions, and it's very deep. It's very multi-layered, and that's the reason why the files don't need to be blacked out the way that you just showed me. It's infuriating because those are answers behind that blacked out page.
Well, we all hope that you get them for all of our sakes. Lisa Phillips, you are one brave woman and you have my admiration. Thank you so much. I'll look forward to.
All right, so we have one of the Epstein survivors have came out to speak about these redacted files, guys, and basically called it a punch in the gut and said all those 116 pages that are completely redacted could contain important information, you know, could implicate somebody in this whole Epstein situation. And in her opinion, that's why they are redacted, guys. All right, more on these files.
Released. Now, I had a little hesitancy on that word because it's only part. The DOJ releasing a mass dump of heavily redacted documents tonight. And I want to just emphasize that point. By heavily redacted, I mean a lot of pages that look like this and this and this and this and this. And that's all I was going to do to the printer to make the point. Okay, there's a lot more of them. We have teams across CNN going through what was released right now in terms of pages that are not quite as black as these. But the DOJ is admitting in a letter to Congress that the files are not complete, separate from the redactions themselves. And that lack of completion is a big problem because the deadline by law, thanks to Congress forcing Trump's hand on the Epstein files, is today. Now, the key Republican who is behind getting that law passed is Congressman Thomas Massie, and he's posting on social media tonight, quote, unfortunately, today's document released by AG Pam Bondi and Deputy AG Todd Blanche grossly fails to comply with both the spirit and the letter of the law that Donald Trump signed just 30 days ago. And Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene said, quote, release all the files. It's literally the law. Well, they did not, and they have not yet. The White House saying tonight that it did not receive the Epstein documents that were released by the Department of Justice before they were released. So they were saying that they weren't involved with what the DOJ chose to put out today. But the Justice Department did brief the White House on what the documents contain. So what do we actually have tonight on the pages that aren't black as the country starts to shut down and check out for the end of year holiday time? We do have some apparently never before released documents, along with thousands of files that were already public, the redactions, of course, and a whole bunch of pictures of Bill Clinton. Now, among the never before released documents is this photo of Bill Clinton. He is with Epstein. Got a print out of that one as well. And then a photo of a shirtless Clinton in a jacuzzi next to another person whose face is redacted. And a photo of Clinton swimming in a pool with Ghislaine Maxwell and another woman whose face is redacted. Now, it's important to note Clinton has not been accused by law enforcement of any wrongdoing related to Epstein. And a Clinton spokesperson's posting on social media tonight. The White House hasn't been hiding these files for months, only to dump them late on a Friday to protect Bill Clinton. This is about shielding themselves from what comes next or from what they'll try and hide forever. Now, as for Trump himself, he didn't want to talk about the files today. He refused to take questions about anything today when he appeared in public to announce a drug pricing order.
I won't even take questions today because there's no way I can take questions that are anywhere comparable to what you just witnessed.
To be clear, what he's talking about, what we just witnessed, was an announcement from Trump about drug prices. MJ Lee has been going through the files such that we have them. And MJ, look, you know, we got these photos, we got lots of redactions, lots of things missing, but there are still, you know, many, many pages of documents that you are able to look through. What are you learning from them?
Yeah, Aaron, as we are going through these thousands and thousands of pages of documents and photos to try to figure out what's new, what's significant, are there people of interest that we should be taking note of? You're right that this is just a partial release of the so-called Epstein files from the DOJ. And what's interesting is that Todd Blanche has essentially informed Congress as of this afternoon that this is happening in this way because of the sheer volume of the documents that we are talking about. And what he essentially communicated is that we needed more time to figure out what information needed to be redacted, including on some information that the agency got recently. Now, one thing that is interesting is that he made clear in this communication to Congress that they made a decision to withhold and redact information that goes beyond what is stated in the law. And just as a reminder, what is stated in the law is that there are 5 categories of information that can be redacted. That includes identifying information about the victims. And just scrolling through these documents, you can tell, you know, there are photos where there is a black box over a woman's face. That clearly falls under that category. But there are other examples as well, like child sex abuse, anything that shows physical abuse, anything that could hurt an ongoing investigation, something that could hurt national security. But the fact that there are going to be more documents coming out on a rolling basis, and that so many redactions, again, beyond what the law originally stated, is going to have huge political ramifications. And I also think we should talk about the ramifications that that is going to have on the survivors, because one of the things that the survivors are very much looking for in a big picture way as they go through these files is a sense of a better understanding of why some of these internal decisions over the course of many years were made, including, you know, what charges did the department decide to not bring on certain people? What were the decision-making processes that took place over the course of many years that they've never gotten the answer to? So this is going to be sort of a long-running process, and I can tell you with certainty that survivors are not going to be happy about what they are going to see as still the continued lack of transparency here.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, MJ Lee, and everyone's here with me now. So, Barry Levine, obviously, you know, you've been covering this for years, and you've pushed every night here for the files to be released. So the day comes, the deadline comes, and we get some stuff. We get some new stuff. We get a lot of stuff we already knew. Yeah. We get a lot of black pages. And when it comes to men, we get a lot of pictures of Bill Clinton.
Yeah, Aaron, apparently there's about 10% of the actual FBI files that were released today. And 5% of that, 5% of the 10, we already had. Okay, so we're receiving, for the most part, very little. And, you know, it's already been playing politics in the sense of putting out pictures of Bill Clinton. You have to wonder if the DOJ has assigned Jay Clayton at the SDNY to investigate Clinton and other Democratic enemies of President Trump. Why are they showing all of these photos of Bill Clinton? You would think that would be part of the investigation. So that doesn't make any sense. We did learn that there's 1,200 victims, more than we initially thought, from the DOJ. The DOJ also said, and this is most important to me, and I think the survivors, DOJ communications on investigations into Epstein and his associates and details of any immunity deals. And so I'm looking for the FD 302 forms, which are the FBI witness reports that Representative Tom Massey says pertains to 20 men that Jeffrey Epstein trafficked these children to. And from the initial look that I made earlier, I don't see any of the 302 forms. However, we may see them in a later document dump.
I mean, Stacey, just to state the obvious here, it's just definitionally impossible that it's random what we got today, right? If you're putting out 10%, someone's making a decision on what that 10% is.
Yeah, exactly. And it seems like Todd Blanche is the propped up announcer of it. But to Barry's point, it's so significant that President Trump directed Pam Bondi to investigate Bill Clinton, directly named him in a social media post along with other Democrats. And then she answered the call and appointed a U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York to investigate.
And others, yeah.
And the policy of the Justice Department is you don't release anything related to an ongoing investigation, especially photographs about the subject of an ongoing investigation. And obviously it seems to be a disingenuous subject, being Bill Clinton being ordered to be investigated at this late stage of the game.
Yes, 1,200
It certainly did seem targeted at the time and still does. But why would they go against their own policies and then release Bill Clinton's photos? It's kind of makes a farce of this entire situation.
I mean, it really, right, if your whole point, if you were going to hide behind an ongoing investigation, the one that you've got going is into Bill Clinton. And yet we got a whole bunch of pictures of him in a pool and a jacuzzi and whatnot.
Yeah, and I'll just add one more building block, which is that the legislation, the Epstein Files Transparency Act, actually has an exception. It says you do not have to release information if it could jeopardize an ongoing investigation. So it's not just that that's Justice Department policy. The law allows for them to actually have that.
Specific law, right, that Massey.
Yes,
law. Yes,
exactly. So it's the oddity that would be the piece that's released, and especially when the victims have named at least 20 men, and then we've only got one out of 20.
Right. And it happens to be that one. Okay, Max. So, I mean, we all get that. And obviously, everybody, if there's anything more to know about Bill Clinton, then people should know it, right? Sure. But they should know about everyone else as well. The two men behind the bill, the law that Ryan's talking about, Ro Khanna and Thomas Massey, have both said this is a load of baloney. And Massey saying, basically get out of town, right? His words are that grossly fails to comply with the spirit and the letter of the law. Then you had Marjorie Taylor Greene, who, has been a regular voice on this issue, but now other issues going against Trump. Does this become like everybody jumps on board to this or no?
There are now three things that are universally approved of in politics: motherhood, apple pie, and releasing all of the Epstein files, which is what makes this so incredibly jarring, alarming, and politically stupid that the Trump administration is acting this way. They are either grossly incompetent, and that, tells, look at how they're dealing with issues of affordability, or they're on the wrong side of the Epstein conspiracy.
Man, this is crazy, guys. Everybody is talking about these Epstein files, man. Which got Republicans infighting between each other. Check this out.
USA's annual America Fest Summit. And it may indeed have been a turning point for the MAGA movement. Because while they are united in their loyalty to President Trump, different factions of the coalition were fighting for influence amid a brewing fight on the right over how to handle anti-Semites and conspiracy theorists who consider themselves part of the movement.
Wrong
Vice
thing.
President
That
Vance
was what
tried to bridge those
wasn't trying
divides in his speech without
to.
explicitly
My bad, y'all. This is about their infight.
condemning anyone on the right.
President Trump did not build the greatest coalition in politics by running his supporters through endless, self-defeating purity tests. I didn't bring a list of conservatives to denounce or to deplatform. I know some of you are discouraged by the infighting over any number of issues. Don't be discouraged. Wouldn't you rather lead a movement of free thinkers who sometimes disagree than a bunch of drones who take their orders from George Soros?
While Vance did not take a side, two other loud voices in the conservative movement did.
The conservative movement is also in danger from charlatans who claim to speak in the name of principle, but actually traffic in conspiracism and dishonesty.
If you believe that Hitler was pretty cool, you have no place in the future of the conservative movement. If you call Usha Vance, the second lady of the United States of America, a cheat, you have no place in the future of the conservative movement. And if you can't say those things without stuttering, then you have no place as a leader.
I'm joined now by a terrific group of reporters. Good to see you all on this Monday afternoon. It is Monday, right? It is Monday.
That ain't what I was looking for, though. I think I'm going to skip that one. All right, here we go. Let's go here.
With Reuters, I'm Rebecca Royfee, former Manhattan Assistant District Attorney, now professor
Back to the Epstein files, where we was at.
All right, welcome to you both. Jeff, we'll start with you because the Deputy AG, Todd Blanche, said today the removal of over a dozen photos from the DOJ website happened on Saturday, and it had nothing to do with President Trump, but it came at the request of victim advocacy groups. One of those photos included images of Trump with women in bathing suits, so take a listen to what he said today. Here's another clip.
The reason why we are still reviewing documents and still continuing our process is simply that, to protect victims. So the same individuals that are out there complaining about the lack of documents that were produced on Friday are the same individuals who apparently don't want us to protect victims. So we're going through a very methodical process with hundreds of lawyers looking at every single document and making sure that victims' names and any of the information from victims is protected and redacted, which is exactly what the Transparency Act expects.
So does all of this raise questions about political interference and what was supposed to be a transparent release?
Well, I think based on the reaction that you've already played from both Democrats and Republicans, there is a concern within the law community, within the Congress and within the lawmaker community that there's exactly that you're asking about, Alex. I can't speak to it. I don't have a sense of what they've done to go through these documents, but I do know what the law says, and the law said they were supposed to release them all, and they weren't supposed to do redactions in any way that for reasons that would be protecting people's reputations. And so the fact that so little came out and so much of it was redacted, and that they didn't come out with at least some mentions of the president, which I think a lot of people were expecting just based on what we already know about President Trump's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, surprised people and are raising these questions of interference. Yes.
So, Rebecca, at least 550 pages in this release are fully redacted. Entire documents, including what looks like this. This is a 119-page grand jury file. Both sides, everything redacted. Another 255 pages in consecutive records, fully blacked out. Is that consistent with the narrowly tailored redactions the law passed last month allowed for? I mean, how does the DOJ prove these blackouts are about victim protection or active investigations and not about protecting powerful names?
Well, you know, they have 2 weeks to explain what these redactions are and justify them. But I think, you know, your question really gets at the heart of the matter, which is normally we would trust that the Department of Justice is, you know, separated from politics, and so that their motivation really is law enforcement and criminal justice motivation, which in this instance really would focus on the victims. But because this is a Department of Justice that has become so clearly under the control of the president, when he says jump, the Department of Justice jumps, we have reason to question whether or not, you know, they are doing what they are supposed to do. And it is a benefit of the doubt that the current Department of Justice has lost. And it's really problematic because, as you can see here, we have a massive lack of faith in what they're doing here. And it's impossible for us to really know, are those redactions justified or are they not?
Yeah, and as you cannot see in the props, if you will, that I just showed, that was, again, the New York grand jury. You were the Manhattan assistant DA. Will we ever learn what has been redacted?
Well, I think, with regard to the grand jury material, there is a more direct form of enforcement, which is through the courts. The other sorts of material, it is very hard to enforce the statute here because, the more normal way to do it is to refer a prosecution for contempt to the Department of Justice. But of course, that would be, the fox guarding the hen house. So we can't exactly expect a lot of enforcement in that regard. But with regard to the grand jury material, I think we have a better shot because courts can be involved.
Okay, so again, Jeff, Blanche says these removed photos will go up after review, possibly with redactions, but this all happened after the statutory deadline passed and without any public notice. Lawmakers in both parties say the incomplete release and the heavy redactions violates the law. So how much concern is there inside the administration that these removals, however justified, are just reinforcing suspicions the DOJ is covering for President Trump?
Well, I think it's certainly fair to say that going into Christmas week, this is the last thing that the White House wanted to be the main story. I mean, it was interesting just on Friday that President Trump, he had an event about health insurance and healthcare, and uncharacteristically did not take questions from reporters at the end of that event. Left the White House to go to give a speech in North Carolina. Also did not take questions, but took a few moments to talk about that healthcare thing again. He was being again, I'm going to use the word uncharacteristically on message for an issue that they want to be focused on, and everybody else is focused on this. So definitely not the story that they want. And even the fact that the DOJ has not released all of the documents means not only are there questions about whether or not they followed the law, but it means that this is just going to keep trickling out. And from a political perspective, that's not positive for the president either.
So, Rebecca, lawmakers in both parties, they are now talking about contempt, talking about impeachment or referrals for obstruction if there's evidence the administration redacted or withheld information to protect anyone associated with Epstein's crimes. So if the DOJ fails to justify these accusations in its required report to Congress, what legal consequences could realistically follow? I mean, how serious is this standoff for the DOJ?
I really think that the only effective thing that Congress could do at this point would be impeachment. And, that would be quite something. It would be a historic moment, as there has been no impeachment of an attorney general in the past. But that seems like the nuclear option, but really the only option that would work.
Talking about impeaching Bundy.
Rebecca, Deputy AG Todd Blanche, he said today the DOJ will eventually meet its obligation by law to release the complete files. And then AG Pam Bondi reaffirmed the charges will be brought against anyone involved in Epstein's crimes. They urged more victims to come forward. But how damaging is it to the DOJ credibility to miss a statutory deadline, while then at the same time asking the public to trust its judgment? Do you foresee any real prosecutorial momentum coming from the DOJ? I mean, you said the fox and hen house analogy earlier.
Well, in terms of what they're going to do ultimately with the underlying facts and the Epstein files, I do think that the real problem is that we normally would have faith in the Department of Justice to do what is right. And I think that in this particular situation, there is so much distrust, and that distrust is warranted. And so, no matter what happens, I think that there will be a legitimacy deficit in terms of what the American public believes and what actually happens. And there's no way really for us on the outside to be able to fully understand whether or not the appropriate actions were taken. And that's what's problematic. And that's why so much rests on our faith in an independent prosecutorial agency, which we have lost now.
Yeah. Rebecca, as I look at Pam Bondi's post on X, in it, she's asking for people with any information to reach out to her, to the Deputy Attorney General, the FBI. They will investigate. So my question is, if they find more perpetrators, which I presume that is what she is seeking, can someone be charged at this point, at this late date?
It would really depend on the facts. I think, when this happened, what were the underlying facts, whether there could potentially be some kind of tolling of the statute of limitations. So it's all so context dependent. But, I think the point of your question is obviously this has been gone over and over and over. And so at this point, I think, what the victims would like to see, and I don't purport to speak to them, but is not only, the accountability for these, whoever was involved in these crimes, but also a full airing of a potential cover-up. And I think that that's, something that the Department of Justice should also be pursuing. Is there any way in which there have been powerful people who have been able to pull the levers of power in such a way that they have advantaged themselves or their friends or their allies? And if so, that is a major scandal that should be revealed. And I think that the victims, if I were a victim, I would want both, accountability for the evil people who were involved in this crime, and then a question of what happened. Why wasn't this investigated? Why wasn't this pursued at an earlier time, if it wasn't?
Yeah, because it all began in 1996 with that one. Pardon me, Jeff?
I'm sorry, Alex. I was just going to ask if I could add something to that, which is Attorney General Pam Bondi has said that she had these files on her desk from the very beginning of the year, and said way back then that they would be pursuing things, and then came around and said there's nothing more to pursue. So, if that's one of the reasons that people are having questions about credibility here, it's also one of the reasons why the fact that the president, before he became president again as a candidate, and other people around him ginned up conspiracy theories about what was in these Epstein files, is now coming back to hurt them, because they created this expectation that there was going to be something. Then they didn't produce. Now they've been forced by law to produce. And she's saying, if there's more information, let us know. We'll file charges. But that will almost certainly beg the question of, if there were charges to be filed, why haven't they done it already? And that is also a political, potentially politically damaging question for them, with the president's base and with others going into the midterms next year.
All right, y'all. So we got, hold on. So we basically found out that there were 550 redacted pieces of information within the Epstein files, guys, that were completely unusable. They was completely blacked out. We also heard Erica Kirk give an interview to Nicki Minaj, where they talked about God and things of that nature. I don't know what that had to do with anything, but she most definitely did it. We also heard about Bill Clinton being inside of the Epstein files. We heard from Trump and Pete Hegseth on shipbuilding, guys. It's a lot going on out here, man. Most definitely keep my eyes to the media to see exactly what it is that's going on. I always encourage people to do their own research. I'm just here to present you with the information as far as I know, as far as I get it. It's up to you to dig deeper if that's what you choose to do on everything that's being presented, man. We're 3 likes away from 800, guys. If you're in the building, make sure you double tap that screen. If you have not, most definitely click those 3 dots and hit that thumbs up. That's another way to hit the like button, guys. I pretty much covered everything in my title as of right now. As things continue to develop, I'll most definitely let y'all know and keep y'all posted on everything that I see, Yeah, man, it's most definitely wild out here. Trump wants to talk about everything else but the Epstein files, while the people are saying release those files, guys. We on the road to 58K. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, guys, make sure you subscribe. Most definitely shout out to all of my new subscribers as well as the old ones. Shout out to my members, the new ones as well as the old ones. Shout out to anybody that sent a super chat or a gift. I most definitely appreciate y'all. And most definitely shout out to my moderator team for keeping this chat rolling smooth. Sometimes I don't know what I would do without y'all, guys. And with that being said, Sidewalk Gang, checking out. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Y'all make sure y'all stay tuned as I bring y'all everything in the news on Everything News. I'm gone, y'all. Y'all be safe.